Hey everybody, this is Survivor Talk with D&D. I'm Dwayne.
And I'm David.
Yes, we just got flipped. We're just two best friends talking about the show we love, Survivor. Tonight is a special, absolutely special podcast, and we'll tell you about it in just a second. Before we do that, we want to thank you for shopping Amazon using our link, survivortalkwithdnd.com/Amazon. And if you want to support us in any other way, just go to survivortalkwithdnd.com/support. But we have a special guest. When she was chosen to play on season 28, her first thought was, awesome, eventually I get to be on Survivor Talk with D&D. That was her first thought. And then her second thought was, oh, I'm going to be on the show. And now, fulfilling her almost insatiable desire to be with D&D is the one and only Chaos Kass. Hello, Chaos.
Hey,
Where's the music? I thought you had the intro music for me.
Oh, I'm sorry. Here we go.
It's time to bring out Chaos Kass.
Yes. Kass, this is an audio podcast also, so you can't just hold up. Oh, my. Hold on.
What?
Nothing. Go ahead. So you can't just hold up a bottle of wine. You have to say something.
All right.
How are you doing,
I'll be drinking
Kass?
the whole time. I'm well. How are you guys?
We're doing great. David, are you here?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay, because we couldn't see you.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, David hates to be
just
seen.
went up.
Yeah, David hates to be seen. So we have Kass tonight. Kass, we're really looking forward to hearing you talk all about Survivor. Hope you aren't Survivor talked out before we got you.
Well, I'm glad you gave me a week or two off because I needed it.
Yeah. Yeah.
We figured last week would have been 30 minutes, so we figured this week maybe 3 hours. Maybe we'll go the limit.
Yeah.
I do have the whole bottle of wine that my husband brought over, so that's great.
This is going to be interesting. About 90 minutes in, she's going to be like, "And let me tell you what cameraman Bob did." All right, David.
What? Oh, besides the fact that we have wonderful questions sent in by our listeners, and we're also going to have questions on our YouTube page, which I guess Dwayne is watching because I can't see it.
I am.
So, but if you got comments, please leave them, and we may use them if we like them.
Right.
Keep it clean.
Yeah.
At least till after 9 o'clock.
Yes. Well, we're family friendly, David. So.
Yes.
And David, do you notice anything awesome?
Your Seattle Seahawks flag is moving.
Oh, shut up. That's because I have a fan on. Look behind me.
And there's a new shirt on your wall. Tell me what it says, Dwayne.
It is just for this podcast because of Kass, right? So I went to Walmart and invested $11 in 2 shirts.
So you really broke the bank for Kass. Way to make an impression.
Kass is very impressed. This one on the wall says, "I'm not antisocial, I am anti-stupid," which I thought she might appreciate that shirt. Yes, Kass, do you?
Except the fact that you bought it at Walmart for like $5.50. It was great, but it's somewhat ironic.
He didn't even spend that much. He only spent $5.44 because they were on clearance.
Yes. Okay, hold on. And then I'm wearing a shirt that says, "I'm not arguing, I'm just explaining why I'm right." I'm not arguing, I'm just explaining why I'm right.
This is what you buy at Walmart. This is awesome. I'm going there. Clearly, I should have my own T-shirt line.
Actually, I'll be returning them tomorrow.
With the slave smell. Not quite a day 39 smell, but it'll be a smell.
It's like the it's like the women who go and buy wedding dresses or bridesmaid dresses and then they return them the next week.
Right, you leave the tag on them and then take them back.
Yeah.
It's classy.
Terry,
Classy. I like it.
Terry had a T-shirt for me that she didn't quite get because we just walked in, and it says, "You're the person that makes a person like me take medication."
So nice.
But I didn't quite get it up on the shelf.
Actually, Connie wants this shirt. My wife wants this shirt because she's always insists she's right. Even if you prove she's wrong, she's right. It's marriage.
It's our estrogen.
Yeah. So. All right. Well, this I'm not antisocial. I'm anti-stupid. Leads us to our first question, Kass. All right.
Fire away, guys.
Why were you so darn antisocial on the island? I mean, come on, you're supposed to be the mom out there, right? You're supposed to be out there washing their clothes and laying out their shoes and and all that stuff, and that just wasn't you.
Actually, I did wash their clothes. Tasha and I were the washerwomen of Cagayan.
Oh, nice.
And I can tell you exactly who didn't wash their underwear or have us do it, which was quite frightening to me.
Who?
There were several gentlemen that, yeah.
David didn't have time. David's underwear still had the fresh look.
Even late in the game, they didn't get you.
Right. I remember when there was about a week left, and after Tasha left, if it was a sunny day and it hadn't rained, you'd want to boil your underwear and your socks or your swimsuit, whatever.
Right.
And I said, hey, I'm going to do one last boil because we got a good day. And I went to everyone who was left, which would have been Trish, Tony, Woo, Spence, and myself.
Uh-huh.
And no one wanted any of their stuff washed.
Nobody?
So, nobody. I think the words from Tony were, we've only got a week left. And that about summed up our state at that point.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, whatever, you know.
They're just not fitting right, you know. 20,
yeah, you know.
32 days, they got just the right amount of stiffness in them.
So I watched all my stuff that day and pondered that comment.
So were you as antisocial in the game as everybody's perceived you, or was this a false perception?
Let's consider what happened. For the first, 18 days, everybody liked me. Even Morgan said, you know, I kind of like Kass. People were not, for half the game, I was not antisocial.
Right.
At what point did I become antisocial? When I flipped. Right? And to whom am I antisocial?
To the five you flipped on, right.
Correct. So, I mean, you can believe the first half of the game or the second half of the game from biased people. And what happened was, at that flip, you know, Spencer and I were never super close over at Brains. Tasha and I grew closer, but when we came over and swapped, it was all the single people, the non-parents, the younger people that I was on a tribe with, and they all got together, and I was kind of pushed to the outside, and Tasha was my only tie to that. Spencer completely abandoned ship and was quite close with Sarah and Jeremiah. So it was obvious what was going on, and I went to Tasha after talking to Sarah that day on the log when Tasha literally turned her back to me and said, well, then vote Kass out. I actually talked to Tasha after that and said, you know, what's going on? Are we good? And I said, what are we going to do if Sarah doesn't go with us? That we're in a bad position. And she said, hey, I have a plan B and a plan C, and you should come up with one too. So I did. And it worked for me, and it didn't work for them.
Yeah, all you needed was plan B. That's all you needed.
But, you know, Morgan never really spoke to me at all out there. Even when we were in an alliance, she never really spoke to anyone. So, you know, as far as being antisocial, what do you say when you're a 41-year-old mom to a 21-year-old who just is described as a pillow? You know, I mean, people can't talk to her. She doesn't get up. How do you relate to someone? I tried to speak to her. She was from California. I had been to where she lived, and, you know, we just didn't have a lot in common. So, and Spencer, you know, he's a 21-year-old male. I don't really hang out with 21-year-old men very often. So it was a difficult thing for me.
So was it more natural in the beginning to gravitate towards David because of age and professionalism, or was that just the first person that came up to you, or how did that come about?
Yeah, you know, pregame, you spend a little time at Ponderosa and you're not communicating with people, but you see people, and obviously there were only a handful of us who looked old enough to, you know, looked considerably older than other people. Mm-hmm. So you have that connection, and then when you're on the same tribe, I mean, he's a parent, I'm a parent, we're married. You know, there's more in common. Right. You had Tasha and Jatia who had a lot in common, and then you had Spencer who was falling in love with Garrett because Spencer needed a big brother. You know, he needed a male role model, and Garrett little Adonis guy there, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, they kind of hit it off as the two 20-somethings. Jatia and Tasha, very, two urban professional women, both single, both go-getters in life. One a former cheerleader, one a former model. I'm not a former cheerleader or model. I've never lived in a city. So it's rough. And David and I wouldn't say we were in an alliance. I assumed we were going to do what was best for the tribe, which was my plan from the get-go, was to not be the weakest in challenges or around camp. And I wanted to lay low until the merge, but then David and Garrett got into their alpha dog contest and really imploded our tribe. If we would have gotten rid of Jatia first, we probably would have won some challenges and gotten it together. But Garrett's insecurity that, and the need, he has an idol, and he wants to get rid of the little guy that everyone's annoyed with, and then David wants to get rid of Garrett. It was just silliness to me. We should have gotten rid of the person who was telling everybody to move rocks and not performing well.
Were you worried at all when Probst said pick out your weakest link? I mean, did you have any inclination that he'd look at you, or did you know where he was going to go?
I figured he'd pick me or Jatia. And I was banking on me just because of the Trish pick. Obviously you're going to go after the older woman, and I'm not a super fit person, so I was prepared for it. And having watched Survivor forever, I knew that they weren't going to people and get rid of them with an 18-person cast. So I figured it was going to be one of those go to your camp or go do something. I didn't think they were going to have us have a challenge where someone had to beat someone.
Yeah.
I didn't think they'd do an immediate elimination. It's never been popular with the fans, and I think they've learned from that.
Yeah.
I figured it was to go to camp or gain some advantage. And so I wasn't going to be offended. And I even kind of looked at him like, it's fine if you pick me. Yeah. I thought he might pick himself. Just that might be a good decision to make, pick yourself. And when he picked Garrett, I actually thought he picked Garrett because maybe he was thinking there would be either of the two women that had been chosen. But then he opened his mouth and said, he's a big threat, and even though we're on day 1, I'm playing like it's day 39. So, right. And that's what led to the demise of the Brains tribe.
Yeah. Did Redemption Island cross your mind? Did
No,
you think maybe?
I didn't even consider Redemption Island. They had just used it for Blood versus Water, and I thought it fit that format, but I thought the fans in prior seasons had not appreciated Redemption.
Right.
And that would be my worst nightmare, because you see what a challenge beast I am.
Yeah, yeah.
Unless it was all puzzles all the time.
Yes. That was Survivor puzzle season.
Trivial Pursuit. Scrabble.
Yes.
Redemption Island Scrabble edition.
Yes.
Tony would never survive. I was not a fan of the leader and weakest twist, but it seemed like it was the obvious way to get the idols in the game as soon as possible. Put some sort of advantage, put some sort of threat in there, and just let's throw the idols into the game day 1 and see how many bite.
Yeah. And that was definitely, we all got to the beach, and there was Garrett in his underwear, wet. He had found the Blue Lagoon and the waterfall, and he hadn't found the tree mail or the well. He found the camp flag. And then he led us. He said, "Come on, guys, I found this waterfall." And it was like 2 miles from camp. He couldn't even find it. So,
wait a minute, we just walked 5 miles, and now you're going to take us on a 2-mile hike?
Right, you just flew in on a helicopter, got naked, found a waterfall. I don't even know what's going on around here. And where's your body hair? That was what I was like, what?
That's why he didn't want to go 39 days. It would have been too much body hair. He couldn't handle it.
No razors.
It was crazy. So he leads us to this waterfall. He can't even find it. And Tasha and I are at the back. I'm looking at her. I'm like, why are we wasting our energy to go to a freaking waterfall? We got to make fire. We have to have a well water source. There's no way they would put us like 2 miles up a creek to find a waterfall. And we were getting very frustrated because it was a really long hike. And you're day 1, you have no water, you have nothing, and you're hiking, following this Chippendale guy up to a waterfall. It felt like you were in high school making a bad decision. Then he gets this this, like, ooh, let's follow the cute guy. This looks fishy, but, So we get up there, and he's like,
did you see that episode?
What?
Did you see that episode when they had him posed and he was like
When the
laying on the
flowers?
beach? Oh my gosh! It was like Zeus. It was weird.
Oh, he languished around. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of footage of me just kind of like looking at him and wondering what is going on in this person's head.
So did he come back from his confessional saying, they wanted me to sit up, but I don't like that pose. I like to lay down when I talk to the camera.
I
don't know why they kept asking. Yeah,
David!
Exactly. My trainer says,
is.
I'm sorry, but we're not going to interview Garrett. This is my good side. This is my good side.
Oh my gosh. Okay, Cassandra, you are not going to believe this, but we misspelled chaos on your overlay. Do you see that?
Did you let Tony do it?
No. So I am sending you the correct one.
Really?
Yeah, I'm actually going to send you a
live on the air.
Yeah, on the air. This is podcasting. This is why we were nominated Best Entertainment Podcast of 2013. Was for this very thing. All right, I have just sent it to you. Actual size. Do what you do best. It took us an hour to get it to work this afternoon. So, if you happen to see it, all right.
Oh my gosh! I just noticed it's Coas.
I know it's Coas Cass. It's Coas.
At least it rhymes.
I have been called some of that.
Yeah, well, yes. Hey, Steve Helling is interested in how you were cast. He says that Probst told him that you were an interesting casting choice because you were a different person in each interview. And they were so intrigued that Probst had to choose you. So he's curious about what's that all about? What did you do? Did you go in there on purpose and present different casts each time, or what? Why were they so intrigued?
I think I thought I was consistent in casting, and you have to remember, and that's what I was told by my casting person. So I read that in an article and was kind of surprised, but Jeff's an interesting guy, and he certainly has his delusions of who's supposed to be behaving in what manner.
Right.
And I know he could never get a read on me in casting, and I know he didn't want me cast.
Oh, really?
Because I was actually told, I was an applicant. Did I get it on there right?
Yes, thank you very much.
Okay. So I actually applied online through the CBS site, the 3-minute video with the little blurb, and they called me 3 days later, and we began the process. And I went through the whole finals down in LA, and I only saw Jeff 2 times that week. I remember on maybe Wednesday or Thursday was the first time I met him, and he was with Mark Burnett, and we mostly talked about reindeer, because I do handle reindeer, and it was reindeer season, and Mark Burnett was really into getting some at a private party.
Okay.
And I cut the interview short with Mark Burnett. I said, look, I'm here to get on Survivor, not to book a reindeer gig. We're on the internet. I can give you the phone number, but you're not getting anything this year because we're booked.
That's funny.
And they were all
Mark,
kind of taken aback.
Yeah,
and he was like, oh my gosh. And then at the final CBS meeting, I insulted Jeff in front of everyone and made everyone laugh at Jeff's expense.
Oh.
And I'm not sure Jeff ever really appreciated me to be on the show because I wasn't your typical mom. I wasn't very maternal. I wasn't some trophy wife. I don't look like someone they would cast in this demographic, and I don't act like one.
Right.
So I think Jeff still doesn't know what to make of me, and I think that's why he said that. And if you look at Jeff, and I always look at people and I like to analyze them unprofessionally and very judgmentally.
Uh-oh, I'm in trouble.
But, Jeff's an interesting character himself, and he likes to know what's going to happen on his show. He's very controlling. So I know Lynn went to bat to get me on the show because she walked me out to my car. I had driven to LA for the finals week. She walked me out And she said, Kass, I want you on my show so bad. And she said, but you don't fit what corporate wants. And she said, I'm going to go to bat for you, and I'm going to try to get you on. But if you don't get on, it's not you. It's that you don't fit what we're looking for. Mm-hmm. So I kind of thought, well, I'm probably not going to get cast, because I knew that Jeff and I had this weird thing going, like control freak against control freak, and he tries to play games with you, and he tries to set you off when he interviews you.
Right.
So, and he didn't do that. I ended up kind of embarrassing him, and that probably doesn't happen a lot to Jeff. So,
well, it sounds like he's looking for, like you said, he's looking for a type. I can't put 3 lawyers on one tribe. One needs to be a mom. I need a mom. Oh, she's a farmer. She raises animals. Okay, she could represent the farm community. Then the next interview, wait a minute, she's a combative lawyer type now. This is a totally different person than I met the first time. So he's seeing 2 or 3 different personas that he wants to put in a tribe, and he can't figure out which tribe to put you in. I would assume that this time there was no brain, brawn, and beauty. It was still just the 18 people. But that makes more sense now that he saw you right away and said, all right, she's this person. Now move her aside. Let's go to this person. And then the next time you were, wait a minute, she's not that person anymore. Now she sounds like a lawyer, well, she is. So I can see where he would have picked you out as 3 different types of people, coming through as one.
Yeah, and it depends who you're interviewing with. If I'm interviewing with the field producers and they're all kind of cool beer with, it's a different conversation than when you're with Mark Burnett and Lynn Spillman. And so everyone's going to have a different impression, and I'm going to react differently to everyone. And he was also frustrated pregame when we had our meetings before the game started that I wouldn't give him a firm game plan. And I just said, look, I need to know what's the twist, who am I on a tribe with? I don't have a game plan until I hit the beach and see what I'm dealing with. It's kind of stupid to go in with your game mapped out because the game changes.
Right.
So I wouldn't commit to him whether I was going to be this mom villain, and he really wanted that. He said, you need to go right in and be the mom villain. And I was like, well, I want to win the game. So I'm just telling you, I'm willing to do whatever it takes, but I'm not going to hit the beach and start being a nut.
So after you embarrassed him, he asked you, of these people you've seen, who do you not want to be with? And you said the Adonis, the chess kid, the cheerleader, the accountant that thinks she knows everything. Probe said, fine, I won't put you with them. And then he puts you on the travel thought. Now I'm going to get the person I want out of this woman.
Well, actually, one of the people that I pegged that I would get along with was Tasha.
I think everybody pegged that. I would think so.
Right. And then I said I thought maybe David and I would get along because about half of our cast was in the same LA finals. I think 9 of us were in LA. So you kind of had that familiarity just because you'd seen them. Right. So I thought I would get along with Trish, ironically. And Sarah, actually, I said she'd probably be tough to get to know, but she's probably cool once you know her, because she was I pegged her as an MMA fighter right out of the gate.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So.
Did you tell Trish on day like 37, look, I didn't flip on you. I flipped on the people at Ponderosa, so, we should be okay.
Well, yeah, Trish has some issues, with separating the game from life. Yeah. And then,
feel free to take a few more.
Yeah.
Sorry. Feel free to take a few more drinks before you talk about this.
Yeah. I already got the finger out of my system.
Yes, you did.
Hey, I don't want to jump too far because we were talking pregame, but Tracy wanted to know, how did you become a Survivor fan living off the grid? And how long have you been a Survivor fan?
I have never missed an episode. I always watch it at its given time. I don't own a DVR or anything.
They don't have DVRs where she lives.
Well, we don't have cable, or we have an antenna. We get 2 channels, which is CBS and Fox. So
there you go.
But I've only lived off the grid for 8.5 years out here. And when Survivor started, I was in law school, and I had a roommate, and I remember seeing the preview for this new show, and it was during summer break. And I just sat down and started watching it as I just applied for season 2, 3, 4, and they actually called me after
wow. Nice.
But they called me. You're gonna love this. This was I was waiting for bar exam results, so it would have been around 2003. And they called me and they said, "Hey, we're Mark Burnett Productions. We got your Survivor video. You never will be on Survivor. You're not what we're looking for, but we're doing this new show called The Apprentice, and we want you to come down and interview for The Apprentice." So they had me make a video in a suit, like they had me make a different video where I'm wearing like a suit and some other stuff, and I sent it in, and then I went to LA and interviewed for the first Apprentice, which the premise of the first Apprentice was going to be hayseeds versus Ivy Leagues, like people who had worked their way through life versus silver spoons type people.
Oh, that's
and
nice.
I would have been one of the hayseeds because I had been in the service and night school and
Right.
and then they changed it to men versus women, and it was all very successful Ivy Leaguers.
Right.
And I didn't really want to be on I was like, what's the prize? What's this show? And I was being from the West Coast, I don't know who Donald Trump is back then. Like some guy who gets married a lot.
Yeah.
You're
like, I don't want to work for him. How's that a prize?
Well, yeah, I was like $250,000 to sharpen pencils in New York City. That doesn't sound very fun.
Yeah.
So.
I got one. Oh, sorry. I got one other.
Oh yeah.
Steve wanted to ask for one more pregame question. Training. Did you do any training pregame, and what would you recommend to those that are trying to get on?
I would recommend doing a lot more training than I did. I did. We do live out, and we have off-road vehicles. So I had my husband drag me a track in the sand, like in the river bottom, and I ran about 2.5. It was a half-mile loop, and I would take my walkie-talkie every morning and leave one in the house for my daughter if she woke up, and I would run the loop, and then I did those cheesy Kettleworks DVDs from Target with that guy with the kettlebells.
Yes.
I did go to our swimming pool here in town. I think I went 4 times, and then it closed due to toxic mold. So,
so that'll prep you for Survivor right there.
So I didn't get
They
a lot
should have
of.
let you in. You should have said, "Hey, I'm going on Survivor. I need toxic mold."
I didn't get a lot of swim practice in, and yeah, I mean, I tried to work on balance. I did some yoga, but I'm not really an athlete. I don't know if you've gathered that information.
No,
I think if I were to go back, which might be a possibility, I'm probably going to exercise a little more and try to gain more weight to go in.
Maybe work on height challenges where you have to stand on a beam or something.
Well, I don't know. Didn't I conquer that fear out there?
I'm still trying to figure out how you got water down that tube, because the first couple times you just put it right back in the ocean.
You're just like, where's the funnel? I need a funnel, Jeff.
I was on the ocean end of that challenge, the open where the wind and the waves. My pole was shaking, but I was scared to death. So
yeah.
If my husband weren't there, I wouldn't have ever come down from that pole.
A little
left,
I would have quit. A little left.
Yeah.
Yeah, your husband really helped you through that challenge.
Yes. See, I do have a husband, so
yeah,
somebody likes me.
Well, we like you, not as much as your husband, but we like you. And what's cool, I don't know if everybody knows this, but you were able to buy that puzzle right out on an eBay auction for charity.
I did.
Or something? Was it for charity?
Yeah, it was that Stand Up to Cancer auction where they auction off our torches and everything. And I told my husband we're going to put that in the barn, and we're going to get it. I don't care how much it costs.
We're going to put it in the barn. I'm sorry, that just struck me as funny. I'm just thinking, we're going to put that in this real prominent place in the house, and you go home and go, husband, we're going to put that in the barn.
Well, we have a party barn, and we have campouts where we have like 75 people come camp.
Yes.
And we have the barn, you know, where people play games and hang out. It's kind of like the man cave party area. So,
hey, going back to your loving of Survivor from season 1, what's your favorite season?
You know, I really love Pearl Islands. I don't know why. That's one of my favorites. Of course, I like the first season. That was a great cast. That was a great, just a great season.
Yeah.
I love Colby Donaldson.
Mm-hmm.
I love him more on Top Shot than on.
Oh, really?
He's more cleaned up, yeah.
Yeah.
And I liked Heroes versus Villains.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Philippines was a good season. I mean, they're all good. I'm not one of these people who rewatches seasons.
Yeah, I don't either.
I watch them on the night they're on, and I don't rewatch them.
You don't
at
talk
any
about
point.
them.
I'm in a Survivor pool. I've been in a Survivor
Right.
pool since season 6, but when we just online email about who did something stupid. But
Yeah.
I've never, even knowing I was going on Survivor, I didn't go and analyze past gameplay, because to me it was about reading people and understanding that the game is fluid and you have to move along with it.
Right. Right.
Did they offer you seasons to watch, or did you make it clear in your interviews that you'd seen all the seasons and were a super fan?
They didn't. I guess at finals they brought me a disc of like season 8 or some random season that was not memorable at all to me. And I didn't even watch it. I was in my hotel room. I was like, "Are you kidding me? I have cable TV. I don't want to watch Survivor."
Yeah.
You know.
Why would I watch Survivor when I have cable?
But they never sent them to me. I think they knew I was a fan and got the show.
Right.
You can overanalyze it, you know.
Well, yeah, look at Garrett. He not only
So,
overanalyzed, he overprepared, and
Yeah.
boy, he wasn't ready.
Well, Jeff told me I should take up professional
I'm sorry,
poker.
Cass, I didn't hear that. What?
Oh, Jeff told me I should take up professional
Oh, yeah.
poker. Because nobody can read me.
Nice. You know, I heard Spencer say that if he hadn't been on the tribe he was on, that he would have been a completely different player and probably would not have been liked as much as he ended up being liked. That he ended up being such an underdog that people were rooting for him and things. But that if he had been on a good tribe at the very beginning where y'all were winning and things like that, that more than likely he would have played a different game and might not have been liked as much. Thought that was interesting.
I believe that's true. I think it's true. You know, he was very quiet on Luzon. Never
Right.
spoke. Never. I mean, especially after Garrett left. He was scared of us. He was with us 3 crazy women. I mean, you had Jatia, you had me, you had Tasha. These 3, you know, very domineering women. And here's this poor kid who's just lost his best buddy.
Yeah.
And realized that, you know, I fully blame Tasha and Spencer for going along with the David vote out. I mean, they had to go along with it. They should have said, hold it together, you know, it's going elite when we are on this crappy tribe. So, you know, I kind of blame them for some activity there and not. The problem with the Brains tribe is we were just individuals. We were never a tribe. We had no minions. We didn't have our woos and our trishes and people that would follow us. Everybody wanted to be the master strategist. And that, even I've talked to Jeff about it, it's death on a tribe. That's why you'll never see a season of all gamers. It would make horrible TV. It would be hilarious, but everyone would come off as insane.
That's a good point. You got to have somebody that's going to follow and somebody that's going to be willing to not get into the argument or not want to stand up and be heard. You got to have people that are going to sit back, or else you're right. It would be fun for the first couple weeks until there's only 1 or 2 people after 10 days because you've ran each other off or hurt each other.
Yeah, you can't have 18 Brains tribe members.
Yeah.
So
back to your tribe. Why didn't anybody stand up to Jatia's crazy shelter idea?
Oh my gosh, I was laughing so hard. I was a CB in the military, a construction battalion, and and having grown up on a ranch and things, I know how to build stuff. I didn't have any preconceived notions of a blueprint in my head of a shelter. We didn't know what we were going to have to work with. But you saw the footage. We were just, I don't even think I'd said my name, and she was like, I'm an engineer. I have a blueprint in my head. I've been working on this. And it was like the Malibu Barbie dream house she wanted us to build. She had stilts. She wanted to build it on stilts in the sand. And I was just sitting back laughing because they're digging in sand as a foundation for a building. And I'm just sitting there going, why don't we go up on the dirt, the hard dirt? This is the tide line. So they built that thing. That first night, the platform got built, and then it fell over when a couple people sat on it.
Yeah.
And this was my problem. I didn't want to sleep on the pile of bamboo over there. I wanted to sleep out on the beach. So I actually went and slept on the beach that night. And then everyone ended up coming over. But there was a time when the four of them were alone over there amid the rubble of Jatia's master building experiment. And that's their bond formed, was over on the beach. And David came over on the beach. And they all came over eventually because the bamboo is not comfortable. But that's where that foursome came from, was from the destruction of that shelter. And then we ended up building a structure the next day. And I know everyone thinks I'm some feminazi or something, but I certainly expect the men to know what hand tools are and how to use them. And it was very interesting on that tribe that old Garrett got a blister right out of the gate because he gets manicures and his whole body waxed and stuff. There's a lot that goes into Garrett and not a lot that comes out. And and you know, Spencer's 21. He's comes from a very well-to-do family. David obviously hires people to do whatever needs to be done.
Right.
And then you had Jatia and Tasha, who were both grew up in cities.
Yeah.
So they didn't know how to tie knots. They didn't know how to use hammers. Didn't know how to use a saw. It was. So I had to argue with them about the roof. They were insisting. Jatia was insisting that we put the palm fronds on from the top down, and I was at my wit's end at that point because, you know, I've done a little roofing, and all you have to do is be smarter. Yeah, and we got in this whole thing. I said, all right, put them top down, we'll pour some water on it, and then we'll put them bottom up. And we wasted a whole day on that.
Seriously, that's just common sense.
See, that explains her comment of I want to see the qualifications for the brains of this tribe, because within 30 minutes you realized, oh no, I'm actually the smartest person here. and I'm probably the most construction sound person here. And we're in trouble.
Well, I didn't talk a lot at the beginning, and I decided I would stick with my animal handler background as my job, because all these people were engineers and accountants and professionals, and they had no common sense. So I said, and on the mat, Jeff had said, you know, intelligence, you can have all kinds of brains, sometimes common sense, book smarts, all this stuff. So after the shelter incident the next day, I said, well, now I know why I'm on the tribe. I'm the common sense portion. And they called me Farm Fit and Farm Smart. They had all these names. I opened every coconut for like 3 days because nobody could open a coconut. They were the machete. They just couldn't quite do it without losing a digit.
Wow.
We thought Colton was bad.
Okay. So back to the roof. Literally, you and everybody else wanted the roof top down, or was that just you and Jatia arguing and no one else got into it?
Well, no one wanted to argue with Jatia.
Well,
and you know me, I don't mind arguing with people. So, and I thought it was a waste of energy to do it wrong. But I did let her, yeah.
So they were just willing to let her do it wrong, even though they all knew it was wrong.
Yeah. Everyone kind of wanted other people to implode around them.
Oh, okay.
You know, yeah. So Jatia was, but I don't know why they wanted to do that when they were in alliance with her, you know. But everyone was, on the Brains tribe, people were playing like it was day 38, and it was day 1. Right. Every person on that tribe was not playing like a tribe. They thought, and I even said it when after the David vote out, I told them, I said, you guys are playing like you're the final 4. You're going to be the next 4. Because you guys are absolutely stupid in what this might be. And you just got rid of someone who's a threat to you on day 38?
Right.
Can't do it.
Yeah.
So who else did you think realized was a super fan like you, other than Spencer?
Well, I would say Spencer is a super fan. I would say I'm a fan. I wouldn't say I'm a super fan.
Okay.
Spencer...
But you obviously grasp that you can't play day 38 on day 2. So I mean, you've got that then again that goes along with common sense, and following the strategy of a game.
And a roof.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not a football fan, but I've seen the Super Bowl and I know the general rules. So, I think Survivor's like that. You watch it for 27 seasons, you kind of get where you're supposed to go at the beginning.
Yeah. Right.
And it just made no sense. You knew we weren't going to merge after the first person's gone.
Right.
So, but sometimes super intelligent people just overthink themselves,
right.
into this abyss, and that's what happened on the Brain Tribe.
Yeah. Okay, so speaking of Spencer, since we just brought up Spencer, today is Spencer's birthday as we record this, and you were going to share some exclusive fun facts about Spencer on our podcast, enough to make Spencer a little nervous about you being on tonight. So I'm very interested in what some of these fun facts are about Spencer.
Well, it is his birthday, and after we voted Garrett out, and Spencer was tragically blindsided and mopey, the next day he told us all it was his birthday and he was turning 21. And the girls and I, none of us are very sympathetic, so we were just like, well, that sucks to be you. He thought he was going to get a little sympathy. It was not actually his birthday.
Oh.
But he was so mopey, and he's like, yeah, this is my 21st birthday, and I could have been in Vegas. And we're like, you should have been, because you're going home next. We were like the mean girls, because he was just so, you couldn't help it. He was Charlie Brown on the Brains Tribe. And you had to feel a little sorry for him being with three women, all of whom were at least 10 years older than him.
Right.
His worst nightmare.
And he was probably scared of saying the wrong thing to Jatia.
Everybody was scared of Jatia. But also back on Brains Tribe, I saw Spencer going off into the bushes one day, or he had gone to the same spot a few times, and I was watching him one day, and I said, I'm just going to follow him over there. And he was burying something under a rock. And I personally had the feeling that Garrett had gone home with the idol or who had left it back at camp.
Right.
And I thought maybe he had told Spencer where he had hidden the idol. So I followed Spencer and surprised him, and he showed me an idol he was making in crafts class out there.
Yeah.
And it was so pathetic. He had taken the beads off the torches. He made a good effort, but there was no central piece. And he just showed it to me sheepishly, and he's like, well, what do you think? Should I keep it? And I said, I think it's more dangerous for you to have that and try to play with it than to bring it if we go merge or swap. I didn't think it would do him any good to have this fake idol, because he's not very good at hiding his emotions and stuff. So I thought it would do more harm than good. And I never saw it again.
Right.
But, I mean, that was all on. Spencer was so easy for me to read. Just, probably like you with your teenage kids. You're just like, really? Right. You can't put one over on me.
Like when he found the idol and just all of a sudden his whole demeanor changes towards you.
Right. He was actually nice to me. And I was like, Spencer, and I had seen him.
What's in your pocket?
Yeah, what is that?
Well, and then the other thing that happened, after I flipped, when we got back to camp, you didn't see a lot of what went on, but I took a beating from the people I flipped on after the Sarah deal.
Yeah, I bet you did.
And Spencer was the most vocal and the most hateful. And just so mad in Spencer style. You see him pout, you see him throw things, you see his hand gestures, and he's so easy to read in that manner. So he was just so upset with the flip. And the next day was when the idol clue thing was going on, and the pants had been left by the river there by Wu after Wu absconded with the clue. And I was walking down there, and there were Spencer's pants. And all the time over at Brains Tribe, he could never find his shirt, he could never find his buff, he could never find his socks. I mean, it was like he was my kid out there,
Yeah.
And so there were his pants, and I was mad at him for behaving in the manner he had. So I took the pants, and I chucked them, and they went into this big bush that literally, I think the mouth of the bush opened and swallowed it. You didn't see them. And I was like, oh, man. I said, well, whatever. The kid leaves his stuff way out here. So that night, you know, you want to have your clothes on at night because of the bugs. And Spencer couldn't find his pants. So I said, oh, did you leave them down, you know, by the wash? And him and Jeremiah went running down there. He came back, and everyone says, Kass, what'd you do? Where's Spencer's pants? You know, everyone turns to me because I had at one time thrown Jatia's clothing around. So I was like the clothes thrower of Cagayan or something.
Right.
And I was going to go tell them where the pants were, but they found them. And then that just made them more mad at me. Jeremiah and Morgan's swimsuit went missing one time, and I was accused. I didn't do it.
That was probably one of the guys.
I think it was probably Tony or Woo or Trish, because they actually went in her bag to get it out. And I never crossed that line of going in someone's bag. I just felt that there was no point.
Yeah.
So, which is one of the reasons Morgan despises me. She thinks I cared enough to actually go into her stuff and throw her swimsuit. So.
Which you didn't.
I did not.
You brought up a good point about on the strategy side. I love the story sides, but to me, it actually, and what you were just talking about with Spencer's age and your age and dealing with those things, if you're in Survivor, to me, your first reaction should be to recover and not react. From after he just lost the advantage he had after the merge, I would hope that coming back from that, my first reaction to you would have been, hey, why didn't you tell me you were flipping? What's your next plan? Instead of coming back and making you even a bigger enemy, when you didn't necessarily want to be their enemy, you just wanted to make a move for yourself. You wanted to make something, get rid of a person that you didn't want to keep. And to me, it's a fatal error to come back and just rip into somebody. I don't know if that's maturity. I don't know if that's a lack of social skills, but I don't think it's the smartest thing to do. That I'm coming back and saying, hey, I'd have gone with you. I didn't like her either. I'm with you, the person that just flipped this whole game over. But to me, that was a fatal error.
Well, Spencer and I weren't really that tight anyway, so I think it was a combination of him being very dismissive of me, especially when we had the new alliance, and he just went completely over to Jeremiah and Sarah and kind of left Tasha and I by the wayside. I think the fatal error there was Tasha not coming in to clean up. And I was willing to go back with them. That was the funny thing, was I did it because I knew Sarah was going to get for me. And I knew she was going to gun for me next. I heard her talking about it. It was very obvious, body language, lack of eye contact, everything, that I had been placed on the bottom. And she was just, it was so obvious to me that I had to get rid of her. So it didn't even matter who I was going to be with. I was on the bottom of either side.
Yeah. Right.
And better to go over to the bronze, you had LJ and Tony already alpha dogging themselves. You could see that they were going to break up. Jeffro was never going to be strategic. And Trish was Tony's girl, and Woo was just Woo. So it was easier to get in over there than to try to mend things with Spencer, and Jeremiah was kind of Spencer's Woo. And when we came back, I asked Tasha, I said, do you want to go for a walk and talk about this? And she told me she could not even look at me. She was so mad at me. And she didn't speak to me for 6 days out there. Her and Morgan just put up this front. They did nothing around camp. They acted like they were going home. And Jeremiah and Spencer actually came to me at one point and said, is there any way we can fix this? And I said, those girls need to understand this is a game. This turning your back on me and any potential alliances is turning your back on the game. And I think that was what killed that potential alliance, was Tasha not saying, let's go talk. And if you remember, on day 3, I was as blindsided as David. And I felt sorry for myself for about, as long as it took to get back to camp. And then I said, you know what? This is an opportunity. I need to, unfortunately, start playing the game. And so I did. And made myself that person.
How long did it take Spencer and Jeremiah to come to you after the flip? Do you remember?
I think it was a couple of days. And Morgan and all of them, anyone I flipped on, it was almost a running joke at camp, because whenever I would say something in camp, they would tell me to shut the front door.
Shut the flip up. Uh-huh.
Yeah. And it actually became a joke. Like, if I were even at the fire talking to Woo, Morgan would just pipe up, Kass, shut the front door, and just for no reason at all. And it really killed their own game. And I think that's part of the bitterness right now in watching the show, is they realize you have to get back on your feet as soon as someone pulls the rug out from under you.
Right.
And you have to put on a happy face, and you have to go with it. And giving me 6 days with Tony and Woo and Trish, that was it. I had decided these are the numbskulls I want to go to the end with.
Right.
Did Trish do a good job of that? Because we've been told that she cleaned up a lot of Tony's moves, or a lot of things that happened on that side. Did she do some of that?
Yeah, Trish was constantly making excuses for Tony. We actually, it was kind of freaky out there. I mean, she should have jumped ship on Tony so many times. And that was part of her frustration with me, was I would engage with Tony because I thought it was hilarious how easy it was to push his buttons. And it made other people realize this guy's a real jerk. Like, you could set him off, and he would go off and yell at everybody. And she would come through and just say, he hasn't slept. He doesn't eat as much rice as anybody. He's so great. And I'm like, what are you? What are you guys playing as a team? Because this is an individual. Get rid of the guy, But she never would. So I think Tony probably owes Trish $500,000.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Do you we talked about it a few minutes ago about, and I don't mean to jump too far back, but with Luzon, you had mentioned that it was a bad move to get rid of David. Somebody that could be a threat late in the game, but to get rid of him so early. But at the same time, that may have saved your game, because instead of getting rid of the older, weak woman, they got rid of a strategist, and that almost put you on the back burner of. Did you ever feel that way, that you weren't ever in danger of going home because they're picking out strong players from the beginning?
I didn't feel I was in danger. I never felt in danger in the game until the night Trish went home. That was the first night I thought, oh my gosh, I might be going home tonight, because I wasn't sure what Woo was going to do. And so, but I'm pretty good. I would watch people at camp. I know people say I was like difficult or whatever, but I never even talked in camp because everybody would tell me to shut up. Or the people who were not in, who I had flipped on, were so vocally opposed to me doing anything that I just was quiet. And at home, I'm fairly introspective, so I didn't have a problem with that. And I spent a lot of time watching people. Who was walking down the beach with who went to the well, who went to get tree mail, who's out in the boat fishing together. So, and then I would check in with those people. And I wouldn't hound people and talk strategy. I would listen to them and then make my decisions.
Right.
Besides Spencer, were you guessing who had idols? Or who was, I mean, from what we've heard, Tony was, I think, looking more than anybody, or seemed to be.
No, we were all looking. I mean, I'm shocked. I mean, yeah, I can't comment on that super idol, but everyone was, there was a lot of searching.
That was my next question from a listener, yes.
Yeah, well, I was not present when the idol was located, so I really can't say anything that is, has any truth to it.
Yeah. What was your thought watching at home? When you were watching at home, what did you think?
I thought it was a very choppy edit, and compared to how Tony reacted finding 2 other idols where he was ecstatic and over the top and having a private moment in the pond, I thought his reaction to finding the super idol was very understated and almost guilt-laden. So
as a lawyer, you would argue, your closing argument would be the way that he reacted was not the same, and therefore perhaps he was led there.
It was a less than organic edit of that idol find.
Yes. Well, you're not alone in your speculation.
But, to me, I didn't care if Tony had the super idol. I thought he was such a schmuck I wanted to go to the end with him. because he was just so over the top all the time. You know.
Okay, so let's talk about this Super Idol just for a second, because he didn't actually get to play the Super Idol as a Super Idol, but he played it because he conned y'all into believing that it was going to be good. Now, you have one spot in the show where you say...
She's tilting her head, so she's...
I know. I know. You have one spot in the show where you go, I'm not so sure that thing can be played at Final Four. But did you ever ask Probst, or did you ever ask producers, did you ever just come right out and say, hey, when can the idols be played?
Well, I discussed it in a confessional because I said it would ruin the game. It would be patently offensive to have an idol that can be played at Final Four. And I just looked at him and was like, I hope that you guys are not messing up Survivor this bad. It's bad enough this idol's back, but to have it play at Final Four, I just couldn't believe they would do something so stupid, production, as to make an idol be played at Final Four. And that's, we didn't really know it was a Final Two. I had told my husband when he was there, it's a Final Two. It wasn't Spencer having an epiphany. You knew how many days were left, and you knew how many challenges. You could do the math. When we got down to like the final 4 or 5 people, you could kind of tell this is going to be a Final Two. So I brought that up numerous times. I did not believe. I thought it would just ruin the integrity of the show completely to have it that powerful an idol, especially because the regular idols couldn't be played beyond 5. And I had asked Spencer about his. I said, did it say you could play it at 4? Because why would you get the Super Idol at 4 and not a regular idol at 4?
That's a good point.
It was very inconsistent to me, and it's never been played at a Final Four.
Right, but did you ever actually come out and ask?
I don't recall. I used to mess with Tony about it all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, I used to say, what's your Super Idol do today? You know, I used to just completely hound him about the Super Idol.
Does he give you free chicken? Yeah.
Yeah. That is one thing that's one thing I really enjoyed about watching you play. And yes, and I get, ribbed about it because I enjoyed watching you play, and not everybody enjoyed watching you play. But one of the things I really liked was I liked how you interacted with people. I liked how you could push. Now, I wouldn't like it if you were doing it to me, but I love how you completely remain in complete control of yourself, right? And you know what button to push, and you push it, and you sit back and you watch, and then you push again and you watch, which is really horrible if it's happening to me, but really fun to watch.
Yeah. Hey, if you like this season, you can't hate me, because this season would not be what it was if I didn't do that flip, No, really, you can hate me, you can criticize my moves, but take me out of the season, and it's all Tony all the time.
Right.
Which it's already all Tony all the time. So I don't know that they knew it in casting, but I think I was a great foil to both Tony and Spencer from a storytelling perspective, just to have this, underestimated, crazy lady out there. Just messing with them.
Even from the Tony edit, there was nobody else really that seemed to be thinking on his level, talking as much on his level, or working with it. And I didn't see that from anybody else. Even the hero Spencer, who seemed like he could have played a good game, but you're right, he was under the whole time. Even after Garrett was gone, he was fighting from the bottom. So anything he did was fortunate from something else, or him winning a challenge, which is all on him. But for the most part, you're right. I'm a camp person. I like challenges. They're great. I know the effect they have on the game, but I love what goes on at camp. I like the strategy side. I love the social side, and I like all the private conversations, the group conversations. So, yeah, you are a great antagonist and a great part of that. And we might not have got as much out of Tony if you hadn't found those buttons and pushed them every 3 hours. So was there any point at Camp Life when you were not doing that we didn't see?
Yeah, I mean, did you just was this your form of entertainment? Who can I go bug right now?
Well, Tony and I, after the merge, Tony and I went on walks every morning. We were the people up first, right?
Right.
And we would walk down. Yeah, we would walk down to the fish traps and just check in. And it was very civil. We were kind of like, a brother and sister out there just bickering.
Right.
I don't think he was ever gunning for me, and I was never gunning for him, but it sure was fun in front of people. And I had to do that one confrontation with Wu, because Wu you had to like bring in a wrecking ball to get through to Wu on strategy. When I wanted to do the vote switch, the split when we went on that reward with 2, 2, and 2, it wasn't me that backed out. It was Wu on the way to tribal. He said, "Kass, we're not going to do this, are we?" And I said, "We need to do it. We'll still get taught out, but we need to flush this idol." And he said, "I don't want to make Tony upset. I don't want to do it." And he backed out, and that's why, I backed out too. I don't want to rock the boat if it's not going to go through.
Right.
So, I knew we were still going to end up with Tasha out that vote, but I wanted to flush the idol I knew he had for sure. Mm-hmm. Which just strategically you want to get any idol out.
Right.
So, Tony, I think it was a good match. I think we played very different games, but we had to. He had 3 people the whole game. He had a tight group, and he didn't have to play half the game because he was winning. He was on a winning tribe for a very long time. So he got to eat, he got to sleep, he got to not have to worry about anything for a good 18 days. Mm-hmm. And then he came in and played, and he had the numbers the whole time. And anytime I tried to change numbers, you couldn't crack Trish and Wu away from him. I mean, I would love, just like Tasha has said it, I'd love to have had a Trish and a Wu. You have to have 3 people in this game. You have to have 5 people at the merge, but you have to have a tight 3 out of those 5. Right. And I never had a 3. I played the whole game alone, pretty much, is how I feel.
Right.
Was there anybody's buttons that you couldn't find or couldn't push?
No.
I love it. I can't wait.
I didn't try with certain people because it's no fun to do it to certain people. But when people are kind of bullies, like, Trish, when we came back after I flipped, she was very surprised I flipped. She gets a lot of credit for that. There's a lot more that went into that on my side. That was the only conversation Trish and I had in the shelter. And then she came to me and said, "Are you voting Sarah?" Or she didn't even say that. She said, "We're all voting Sarah if you want to join us." And she didn't even know what I was doing, which is why Jeffra looked so shocked that night and was crying. But Trish came back from that, and the young girls used to sleep in the center of the shelter on the pillows with all the blankets under the mosquito net. Mm-hmm. And it was even on the show where she said, "We're taking this over. Come on, Kass. Come on, let's come in here and take over this. Let's get these beauty queens out of here." And she says, "I'm a bitch, and I'm going to be one." And she did. She kicked those girls out of the shelter, and she was very mean about it. And that's why I don't understand why people think I'm the horrible person. I didn't go... I would mess with people who were being mean to other people. Like Tony would be on one of his power trips. He would be horrible to Tasha and Morgan after that flip. He would just tell them how useless they were. You see me telling Morgan, why don't you get some water? But Tony's doing it too. Mm-hmm. Tony's right there doing it, but everyone gets mad at me. It's very interesting to me.
Well, that's how they edited it. I mean, that's the story that they wanted to tell.
Right.
Right.
Had I won that last immunity challenge, you would have seen a very different edit for me. And I think I would have won the game.
Yeah.
I mean, I have it on good authority.
You think you would have won the game?
Yeah, I would have won the game. I'm very certain. Wu was never going to win the game.
Tell us this good authority, then, that you would have won the game. Had you...
I can't tell you that.
Do you know how many votes
you just drink a couple more glasses, and we'll come back to it.
I plan to play again, guys.
Do you have any idea?
I'm not a bridge burner. I was told at Ponderosa that they did a poll the night I was voted out, and I had 4 for sure. And they didn't tell me who, but and I believe that. I believe I would have had to sway one person, and I think I could have done that.
Would that have mattered if it was Wu or Tony?
I don't know if it would have mattered. I don't recall. It seems to me the people I've spoken to feel like I would have beaten either of them. But I don't know because everyone's so bitter. It's so hard.
But you're right. If it had gone that way, the edit would have been completely different.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I seemed very cold a few times. Tony cried more than once out there. They edit you how they want your character to be in the story.
Right. And they know the end, so
that's right. They can't control your casting interviews, but they're going to control your edit.
Yeah.
Make you that person they want you to be.
Yeah.
Well, and I'm fine with it. I mean, if you're going to go on this show, you have to understand that you're going to go on there and you're going to behave badly and you're going to behave like an angel sometimes. But depending how it goes for you and where they need you in your story, they're going to show that 3 minutes of that 3-day period of your life that you don't want shown.
Right.
Yeah.
So don't go on Survivor if you don't have thick skin and you don't want to just give it up to the hands of someone else.
Right. So, speaking of playing again, are you already getting calls from survivors that are going, hey, if you play again and we play again, let's make sure that we, stick together, because we know pregame alliances happen. Are people already trying to contact you and stuff?
Yeah, I've been contacted. I mean, obviously I'm a villain, right?
Well, that's how they're saying. Yeah. Well, you don't mind it, though, do you?
Maybe some villains have. I don't mind it. My whole casting video was me with a glass of wine saying I'm going to be your first mom villain, and
yeah, and that's what they got.
Right. Oh no, Lynn has let me know that I delivered 110%. So. And I don't know if Jeff likes me or not, but he's stuck with me for another season, I'm sure.
Yeah. Well, that's funny.
So.
One of the things.
Go ahead.
One of the things after the episode where you did go to Woo, so you and Tony go talk in the woods, and he tells you, we're final, whatever, and you go to Woo, and you tell in your confessional, I'm gonna go mess up Tony's game because I'm gonna go get Woo to doubt him, and you succeeded. So after that episode, and David and I are doing our podcast, and we're recapping, I start getting these messages from Tony about how wrong I am in defending you, but I still hold to the fact that I think you succeeded in what you were trying to do whenever you went to Woo and got Woo to start doubting Tony. Did you succeed? Did you feel like you succeeded? Is that what you wanted to happen?
It worked for me because Trish went home instead of me, or instead of Woo. I knew that Trish would never, ever break from Tony. And Tony probably wouldn't break from Trish, realistically. He knew that nobody gave her credit for anything. And he's so misogynistic that it wouldn't even cross his mind that someone would actually vote for a female over him. So I think he was planning to take Trish or me. And I didn't really want Woo gone. Woo was a little more malleable than Tony or Trish in my mind. Obviously, I was wrong because he took Tony in the final two, but that was just he knew he was gonna lose. I mean, I think he picked the winner of our season.
Oh, okay.
And I think he knew that, and he picked Tony because they'd been together from the beginning.
Right.
And that's why I didn't look surprised at all when my name came up. I just knew it. I knew going to Tribal that he was gonna take Tony, and I just thought, oh my God. One day short, half a flipping second.
Right. Yeah.
So,
that was my next question. When did it hit you that he was going to pick Tony to go to the end?
Pretty much as soon as I lost that challenge.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I don't think he thought he could beat either of us, so I think he was going to take the person that he felt deserved it more. And he had spent all that time with Tony and seen Tony run the game from Tony's perspective. And, I think they were together for 39 days. You can't come in halfway and say, but I'm your new best friend.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. See, that's funny. I remember talking in the recap of the finale that when you were coming in third, Tony and Woo were already up there putting their gear puzzle together, and I'm thinking, you know what? She's almost not worried because there's no way either one of them takes the other, because whoever goes or whoever wins is going to take Kass. So if I'm Kass, I'm almost not worried about finishing this challenge because I'm going. It's like Richard Hatch. I'm going to the final. I don't even have to finish this gear challenge because I'm going. And like you said, though, as soon as it was over, and you obviously knew the situation better than we did, that Woo was never going to win, no matter who he took, so why not take the guy and maybe get an extra vote for loyalty? If anybody, wants to throw one vote for loyalty, he'll get it over Tony, but otherwise he's not taking Kass because Kass wasn't his friend. And that's just my misread of that challenge. That you were not worried about it. But man, that was that the lowest point you felt in the game?
Oh, definitely. I mean, when and I'm sure this is how Olympians feel. You lose by like half a second. You may never get that shot again, and you can't get that half a second back. I mean, maybe it was Wu's half a second to have and not mine to have. You never know how life works, right?
Yeah.
So you can beat yourself up over it and be like, oh, if I'd have gone up, taken a left instead of a right, or untied a knot faster.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he won, and that's what happens in challenges and in competition. So it sucks. It sucks by a half a second. It sucks a lot more than by 20 minutes, that's for sure. But I'm sure Spencer feels horrible about how he went out, too. He had a good 20-minute head start there.
That's about a $950,000 half a second, isn't it?
Like 900. Yeah, 915.
Somewhere around there. Yeah.
Thinking back, was that the closest any challenge went this past season? Do you recall any other one being that close?
Definitely. That kind of challenge, the endurance challenges, you never know how long someone has lasted longer.
Right.
But that may be one of the closest challenges in the history of the show.
So it was as close as it looked on TV.
Oh, yeah. Jeff sat there and just said, Kass, half a second. I said, I know, Jeff. Thanks.
You should have said, go to the tape. Go to the tape.
Well, there was this little thing inside because one of his cogs flew off when we were both spinning at the same time. And I saw one of his cogs fly off, and I didn't even look to see if his flag went all the way up. And I've always had this feeling like maybe if the cog flew off, there's no way the flag could have gone all the way up.
Interesting. That makes me want to go back and watch.
I know.
See if it went all the way back up.
But that would violate both your policies of not rewatching a season.
Yes.
So anyway.
Yes.
Hey, go ahead.
Well, since Mike in Cleveland asked about if the Survivor gods gave you a mulligan, would it be that challenge would be your mulligan? Let me do it one more time.
No, I think my mulligan was the Luzon tribe.
Oh, okay.
The whole tribe.
you just want to redo the whole tribe.
Yeah. Let me start over. I don't know if I could win that. I mean, it's those things in life. You can't just...
Right.
Maybe it was Wu's, not mine. Or Tony's.
Yeah.
Hey, in the Final Four challenge, when Jeff and the camera people left you on that pole,
yes,
and went up
to die.
Did you ever look at him and say, "Hey, I'm actually catching up. I'm coming"?
No, I actually yelled, "Jeff, can I get a penalty time or something?" And he wasn't even listening to me. My husband's just yelling, "Climb down the pole," and my rope got caught twice over there.
Yeah.
Something was going on with my pole and that stuff.
Yeah.
It was bad juju over there.
I was wondering if you could pull it up when they got stuck. I'm thinking, hey, that's kind of going to work. She can pull it up now. And Probe says, no, she must untie her rope before she can pull it up.
And the thing was, when we climbed up the pole initially, there was a little square up there to stand on, and we had a piece of metal up there to help us get onto the pole, because the ladder was under the platform. So you had to kind of climb over it.
Yeah.
So when I had to climb down to undo that rope, I got down there and I thought, oh my gosh, how am I going to get back up here? Because that pole, we had to chuck it in the water before the challenge started.
Oh, wow.
So I actually had to climb onto this kitchen tiles stuck to the top of this telephone pole. The cameraman said I looked like a gecko coming up over it. I don't know how I got up. And then it went pretty quickly after that.
Believe me, looking at you on top of that pole told me why I would never be able to do that challenge.
Yeah.
As small as you are, and as small as that tile looked, I'm like, wow, I would never make this challenge.
Well, I never would have come down from that. I mean, I would have quit if my husband weren't there. I most certainly, because I was petrified.
So if you quit and Spencer wins, who do you think would have gone home?
I think Wu might have won that darn puzzle over Spencer that day.
Oh.
Maybe even Tony. I mean, I was out there.
No, not Tony. We know better than to say Tony. No.
Yeah.
I was out there really like 20 minutes on that pole that they were doing that puzzle.
Wow.
You should be pretty proud of yourself then, staying up on that pole for 20 minutes.
Well, that was part of my failure the next day, is my legs were so cramped from squatting up there that day. Mm-hmm. I mean, I could barely run through that maze. If you watch it, my legs are totally stiff. I was dying.
So as Tony and Wu were running together, you should have gotten on Wu's back and just let him carry you to all those spots.
Yeah.
Well, my fear of following them was they run faster than me. And they're so bumbling that I would spend a lot of time running around and running into them. Right. So I went my way and they went theirs.
Yeah. So who would have been voted out if you hadn't won that? Do you think?
I like to think Tony would have been the choice. And Spencer would have won the game if he, he did nothing to piss anyone off. He didn't do anything affirmative other than win a couple of immunities. And he had a lot of opportunities. He had so many opportunities when Tony was coming to him and saying, hey, tonight we're going to get out LJ. That was a prime opportunity, although I'm not averse to the LJ vote out because LJ was a pretty good threat. Additionally, when they voted out Jeffra, that was a wasted opportunity. He could have shown that idol and flipped the game. He could have just come. I remember we were talking that day about what he should do. And he said, in post-game, he said, I almost asked you, Kass, if you wanted to change the game, and I was too afraid. And that's the big thing if you're going to play Survivor. You've got to go with that first gut instinct.
Yeah.
When you feel that, don't second guess it, just run with it.
And not only that, but you may not have time to go with your second instinct. I mean, I would imagine the days probably seem to take forever, but the game probably goes by so fast.
Yeah. The game is decided in the couple hours before Tribal, sometimes a couple minutes before Tribal. A lot of things happen right when you're getting ready to go to Tribal, right before you're going to be on lockdown until you get in there. People scramble off and say, hey, it's not really so-and-so, it's so-and-so. So you want to be in on that and watching who's in on that.
Yeah.
Hey, so if Tony wins the final immunity challenge, do you even have to go to him and say, will you please take me? Or were you pretty sad that he was going to take you with him?
I'm sure he was going to take me. I would think. I mean, although he could have taken Wu, too. He may have taken Wu. Because Wu was a nice guy, but a lot of people had some stuff against him out there.
Yeah. So what was your final tribal council speech? How would you have said, this is how I'm going to win the game? Or this is why you should vote for me?
Well, when I made that flip and stuck with the brawn, I thought it was a great narrative to say, right from the get-go, I started at the bottom of the worst tribe ever. Because I really was at the bottom, being blindsided by the David vote. And I played the game by myself, and nobody there would align with me. Nobody would let me in on anything. I mean, I went to Tasha, said, do you want to work together? She said, no, I'm already working with Jatia. I mean, everyone said no to me initially. And then they all came crawling to me. Hey, Kass, can we work together again? No. You never say no to anyone in Survivor. So I would have just explained that I came from the bottom. I did what I had to do. The 5 people who were so pissed off at me, who think I did something emotional, why are y'all sitting there then? Why would you be sitting there if it was purely emotional? Or was it strategic? And you guys were too emotional to get it together and come to me or come to someone and change the game. I would have just let them know that, Tasha, Morgan never played the game. Tasha didn't play. Spencer didn't play. They wanted to be immunity runners. I mean, Tasha actually came to us after she won her 3rd immunity and asked the girls to come with her because God had chosen her as the winner, and his hand was at work out there, and that we could ride with her to the end. They didn't show my confessional, but I was like, if God is out here, I hope he's not worried about these 6 greedy Americans buying for $1 million in the midst of poverty in northern Philippines.
Right. Right.
But so much goes on out there where people get so into their own character and who they are that they forget or they discount each other. And we're all guilty of it.
Sure.
It's if you're on that show, you're an egomaniac probably to begin with.
Yeah.
Now, did y'all know, you talk about being grounded and stuff and being lost in your character, did anybody know that Tony had rocks that he was socializing with each night?
You know, he had rocks at the beginning, and he was upset that he had lost them. And he said he was going to go get some new rocks. I think all of the parents out there, or I know I had, every day I went and got a shell out there and collected it for my daughter. Like, I think some of us were kind of private out there and would go do things by ourselves. I don't doubt that everyone had some little memento. We never got luxury items or anything from home.
Right.
So you just created your own out there.
Yeah. By the time your husband came, had y'all pretty much decided that there wasn't going to be a family visit, and was it a legitimate surprise?
Yeah, we were, I think when we were down to 6, I think it was Tony who asked Jeff at a challenge, you know, what's up? Aren't we getting a family visit? And Jeff said, sometimes it's not in the cards. And we had never seen it beyond a final 6.
Right.
And really with a few days left in the game, and we had all kind of rationalized, well, maybe this is for the best because we need to just focus on the game and get to day 39. And that's what we were all in that mindset. And when that boat pulled up, I know the edit showed my husband getting out first. He was actually the last to get out because he was the tallest.
Mm-hmm.
And they always do everything by height. And we saw that boat come up, and that was the nice boat, the Jeff boat, as we would call it, like someone, or a reward boat or whatever. And I saw this pale girl get out in clean, bright clothes. And production always wears dark clothes to blend in with the foliage, and they're all tan and dirty by then. And I actually turned to Tony. I said, "Your wife's here," because I assumed that was his spouse, because she's a like blonde, smaller woman. So that's my sister would come. And I actually went for a walk with him after that and told him he's married to a really great woman if she put the baby first, other than our stupid shenanigans out here on an island. So, you know, I mean, I told him that. I said it just speaks volumes about your wife and who she is, that she wouldn't leave a baby home to come see you all smelly.
Right. So did it take you out of the game, or well, we know it helped you in your game. Do you think it took anybody else out of the game?
I don't think so. I think you're so in the game that day 37 of 39, you're in such a place mentally. I don't think it threw anyone's game. I was the only person who got my first choice for the visit. So I think the visit had been pushed back a couple of times, or my husband told me that it didn't go when it was supposed to go, but we had had a big storm. I don't know what pushed it back. But I think if someone doesn't have a flexible employer or something, it's hard to go away. He had to miss work for a week to go on that trip, you know, which is on short notice a lot to do. So I think being the only person who had their supportive of the whole thing, and he just found it hilarious that I was out there with these 3 big lugs and that everybody hated me. And I mean, he was laughing because I had told him that was what was going to happen. So, and then I won that challenge, and that, I mean, you can't take that away from anybody. Who gets to do that, you know? Yeah. So, well, you can do it in our barn, you know, apparently.
Are you going to make them stand on a pole first and dump water into the pipe?
Well, no one gets to do that puzzle until you stand on that pole for 45 minutes.
I was thinking of getting a timer, and then no matter who does it, I'm going to put the time, I'm going to have, like, Spencer's time posted. And then, like, have, like, 4-year-olds do it and stand by it below his time and put it on Twitter.
Yes.
And just constantly, you know, tag Woo or Tony or Spencer with a better time than them by someone like my grandmother, you know, or something.
Yes.
And now we had heard some theories online or read them that there was a major typhoon or weather front that came through, and that could have been what held up the family visit. And some people didn't like this family visit because of how late it was and how short it was. I thought it was awesome. I mean, I like other family visits, but to me, this was like a pit stop with 10 laps to go. Everybody is focused on the game. They're glad their family members are there, and they loved it, but at the same time, nobody took their eye off the end game. It seemed like everybody was still focused. Nobody had a Lisa Welcher moment of getting reinvigorated. Everybody was already looking at the final lap. And this was just like a last-minute pit stop to me, and I liked it. It didn't take away from the intensity that everybody still had to finish the game, including Spencer, you, and Tony. I mean, I thought it was perfect for this season. This was such a strong cast, and especially such a strong finish, that I thought the family visit was actually perfectly done. I don't know how much better it could have been if it was at Final 6.
Well, it couldn't have been better for me, because I got the whole enchilada out of it. So,
That's right.
But I think that's a good point you make about everyone being so focused, and that goes to being so late in the game, and then having we had real gamers in this game at the end. There wasn't a herd of goats being dragged along. You had people who wanted to play and wanted to be there,
right,
and weren't going to give up. You had a lot of people who were not going to give up in this game,
right.
And I think it was a great end. I mean, the only better ending would have been me winning,
right.
But
you definitely have the privilege of being on one of the best seasons with one of the best casts. I mean, it was just a great season, and the cast did it. I mean, it was just wonderful.
Yeah,
so.
I agree. I'm super proud to be part of this season, and
Yeah.
I'm proud to be one of the people who made moves and made things happen to make it a great season.
Right.
And I think in the future, people don't need to be like, ooh, I got to wait till Final 7 to flip. You flip when you can flip. Otherwise, someone's going to flip on you.
Right.
And I think my flip proved that it's not a Cochran flip, that it's not, you can flip at any time. And actually, the earlier you do it, if you can get away with it, the better it is for you, because people have more things are going to happen. And that was, I was banking on that too. We were halfway through the game.
Right. So
a lot of people.
Go ahead. A lot of people what?
Oh. A lot of people were going to get backstabbed before it was over.
Right. So tell me if I'm sorry, there's a really bad delay with you, so sometimes if I talk over you, I apologize. Sometimes you're a good 5 seconds behind, so I apologize for that. Tell me if just let me tell you, the way I saw your game was a lot of times you would be, Chaos Cass, as you were nicknamed. I don't even remember who nicknamed you that. Did you nickname yourself that, or did someone else nickname you that?
I think it was shown that I did. I think I discussed Chaos, and my name rhymes with it, so maybe there was some influence in pushing that together.
Yeah. Well, it helped me write a pretty good song, I think.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
In fact, it is my ringtone, which becomes odd when I'm out in public because they think I'm listening to Wrecking Ball. When
it's this woman that was on Survivor. Never mind.
What Chaos Cast? Anyway, so you played a game where you did a lot of chaos, and that is a strategy that a lot of people use. But did you make a mistake in that you let everybody know you were doing all the chaos, and you didn't care if people knew you were doing all the chaos? Because most people would say, do all the chaos, but make sure someone else gets blamed for it.
Well, I'm not sure what chaos I really did other than do a big flip and then argue with Tony a couple times.
Yeah.
Throwing Spencer's pants away, that wasn't a big deal. The Tia incident, I think, was just a human throwing in a fire on the day 6 of 39 days.
Right.
So, I mean, I don't know what chaos I caused other than flipping, really.
Well, that's fair.
Well, yeah, but at the same point, I think that one move also was equivalent to the season for 5 people. And I think that's why it had such a big effect, and it was such a great effect to watch of a fan of the show. When the whole, I mean, what happens if you don't make a move at that point? How do you think the rest of the game goes? Who do you think pulls together? Do you think y'all just knock out Tony's side in line, or what do you think would have happened?
No, I think Sarah was planning to get back with Trish at some point, as evidenced by her saying she would never write down Trish's name. Mm-hmm. That was a big problem for me, and that she kept going and talking to Trish that day, even though she was complaining about they wouldn't leave her alone. I often saw her affirmatively approaching them. So I think Sarah and Trish probably would have pulled in Jeffra and maybe Jeremiah, maybe Morgan. I think Sarah had visions of running the show, and she probably could have.
Yeah.
It would have been I think I would have been gone. I would have been the second or third member of the jury. And the thing is, for those 5 people, that game changes every hour. So if one person messes up your game, that's on you, especially with so many days to go.
Mm-hmm.
If 5 people can't dissociate themselves from their alliance and regroup and go in and say, let's get LJ and Jeffra and let's redo this thing, that is how you play Survivor. Sitting back and being kicked off and how you play Survivor. Someone knocks someone out you're working with, you go find someone new to work with.
Right.
And you make it work, or go down swinging. Don't just sit there and, oh, Kass sucks, she backstabbed 5 people. Well, there's only so many people. That's a long way to go in the game. You have so long to recover. So to me, it speaks volumes to those 5 people that they didn't even attempt ever to switch it up. You know, go grab Jeffra. I even wanted to bring Jeffra in instead of Sarah, and Spencer said no. I just was not feeling the Sarah vibe and wanted to pull Jeffra in as an extra number and get rid of Trish and not let Sarah know and then see where Sarah sat. And Spencer told me that was a stupid idea.
Yeah.
Well, you know what was stupid? Telling me it was a stupid idea.
Well, wait a minute now. But what if we talk about stupid ideas? What about telling people they're going to get voted out before they get voted out? Didn't somebody do that this season on Luzon?
Yeah, but thank God my tribe was so stupid and and overlooked that. You know?
Like I said, they weren't worried about voting you out. She's
Yeah.
the older woman. She's not going to harm anybody. Who is she?
Well, and that was, you know, I told Jatia that because I felt bad for her because no one was telling her how overbearing she was, you know. And I didn't even have an answer when she pulled me aside. I was scared of her. And then I was like, yeah, I'm kind of leaning towards you. And she did ask me if I would vote for David. And I said, I'll vote for whoever everybody's voting for.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, so because I said, I'm not really in an alliance, so you just tell me who everybody's voting for. So, yeah, that was a bad move for me out of the gate. But obviously I recovered. And no one thought, well, we should get rid of Kass because she's
Right.
doing that kind of thing, which is amazing.
Right.
Almost fatal move right there.
Yep.
But that was good because I had a quick learning curve in the game.
Right. Right. So we have a listener. His name is Will the Giant Ninja. And every single feedback, he would say, I love me some Kass. Right? So you are familiar with Will the Giant Ninja, correct?
Mm-hmm.
As she takes a swig. He asks a question. I don't really know why he's asking you this.
I'm not asking it. You go right ahead.
Of all the questions, well, this is the one on YouTube. I don't know the one you're talking about. He goes, Kass or Cassie, apparently he thinks y'all are close enough that do you hate lawyers as much as I do? I don't know why he's asking you that.
I do, in fact, Will. I think they're despicable.
You're bonding even close. Be careful.
Yes.
There's a few decent lawyers out there, but by and large, you know, there's a lot of schmucks out there.
Yeah. So,
I have a lawyer, some anonymous alleged lawyer, calls my office during the season every Wednesday night, probably at midnight my time, and leaves like a 10-minute voicemail about how I should be disbarred. I'm the worst Survivor player ever. I'm a horrible lawyer and a horrible person, and every expletive you can think of. And it's a blocked number, and it's almost, at first I was thinking, wow. And then every week I actually bring my friends in to listen to it.
It's a party.
And we have this mental picture of what this man living in his mom's basement must look like. That he actually looked me up, waits till he knows nobody's in the office, and leaves this whole thing And I'm pretty sure he's reported me to the state bar for backstabbing Sarah.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. That is hilarious. So tell everybody or tell Will specifically what you told me about the name Denison.
Oh, yeah. Well, I hope none of my stalkers are out there, but we have a large arsenal, and you would not want to approach our property anyway. That said, the nearest crossroad to my street is Denison Road. So I see the name Denison every day.
Every day.
It's a very bumpy road. There's lots of potholes.
Just like
There's
Will.
a lot of shenanigans that go on that road, and I somehow envision Will as this bumpy, unkempt, lingering road that really leads to nowhere.
That's awesome.
Well, if you haven't seen his latest picture, he's got a picture of a profile of him and his pipe on our Facebook page. I know you go by there every once in a while, but he's got it on there. So do you have guard llamas? Do they roam the property? And
Well, do you say that seriously? Because llamas are actually guard animals.
yes, I do, because I've seen that. I looked them up.
Okay. Yeah, I think there's been a lot of llama stuff Googled since Tony's impression.
Yes.
And he should definitely have a contract with Tony Llama Boots by now.
Yeah.
I did give Tony a small llama at the finale.
Oh,
a
really?
Toy.
Oh, a toy.
Yeah. And I had him sign a picture of a llama in a tuxedo for me.
Nice. Nice.
So he asked if I was going to put it on eBay. And I said, no, not yet. I'm not in dire straits. So,
yeah.
But yes, Denison Road and lawyers. Yeah, I have some friends who are lawyers who are okay, but a lot of them are kind of not so great. I'm a night school lawyer, so a lot of lawyers don't even consider me a lawyer, which is great because then I just beat them and then they're embarrassed.
Yes. So it's getting back into life after well, I guess before the show came on the air, life was probably normal, right?
Well,
when you came back?
When I came back, I was a little underweight. I lost 22 pounds, so I had gone in at 128. I came out at 106. That was a lot of body weight for someone my size to lose.
Yeah.
And if you're in the game to the end, I mean, the game ends on a Sunday night and you fly home Monday morning. And then if you're a parent, I mean, you go right back into life. School's in session and your husband's at work and the in-laws are ready to leave because they've been watching the kid all summer.
Right.
So...
And you're sitting there drinking gallons of Pedialyte trying to get your...
Right. You're, well, for me, I ate Pop-Tarts and cake and ice cream, nonstop. And when we came back, we had a house. I had won this big lawsuit, and I had gotten a bonus in the form of a very large, nice home. We lived in it for a couple of years. And then we decided to sell it and take the capital gains exemption that you could take. When I came back from the show, we actually had a decent offer on the home. So I told my husband, let's just do it and take the money and run. So we sold that house. And I've pretty much taken all this time off. And, I mean, I have some ongoing cases, but I don't work. And my deal with my husband is I work. My job is kind of a hobby. As long as it pays for itself, that's great.
Yeah.
And I do fairly well. I mean, that house sale, we made close to what Tony's getting after taxes, but tax-free. So I think we're okay with me not working, and I'm not going to work this summer except on some ongoing stuff. And I'm kind of going to rethink what I want to do because lawyering is not a fun profession.
Right. And you don't have to. And, of course, you've got another season of Survivor in your near future, probably.
So you better start training because that season's going to be coming. You never know when.
Yeah.
I'm thinking it's not this summer.
No, probably
well, I'm not going this summer anyway if they call. So I'm fairly certain it's not this summer.
Yeah.
I'm thinking probably 31 or 32.
Yeah. That'll be fun.
So I would start maybe exercising next March. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, why rush? Yeah, don't rush it. Yeah.
Yeah. Be careful. You might have Richard Hatch on your season. I had this strange suspicion that Richard Hatch is going to be on again.
Yeah. How old is he now?
I don't know, but he'd probably still kick butt in the game if he didn't get voted off first.
Well, my fear would be that someone would vote me out early.
Yeah.
You know, if they were, you know,
Yeah.
I don't know. It
depends
depends
on how many big names were on the.
Yeah.
If there's going to be another returning player season, let it be all returning players. That's just my hope.
I got a question.
Yeah.
You weren't at. Yeah. Oh, I agree. I'm with him on that of all returning season. You weren't at Ponderosa long, but I got to talk to somebody that was there for a while, and they were a little disappointed in some of the attitudes that were there, in the sense that they were kind of glad they were there instead of being in the game. But what was more enjoyable, the food or the ambiance? I mean, was there lots of friendships and socializing, or was it just a matter of eating?
This is Kass we're talking to.
Yes, I was welcomed with open arms. There was a cold beer was waiting for me.
So that was a fake video that we saw. Okay, I just wanted to make sure. I thought so.
That was the rated G video that you saw. Yeah, I was given the Cochrane treatment, led by Morgan, I guess. And what happened was I think I might have eaten something, and then I went and took a shower. I was the only person at Ponderosa that had their own room the last 2 nights. Even Tony and Wu had to room together, and that was for fear of my safety. That people were so angry with me. They actually put me on another side of Ponderosa where medical and crew were. And
wow.
When I got to Ponderosa, on the ride to Ponderosa, you know, you get in the van and you have the medical and the site. Right. They said, you know, Kass, you don't even need to go in there. They're very mad at you. And what are they so mad about? I mean, I played the game. I was never mean to them other than Trish. And she was 10 times worse to me than I was to her. So I felt like I would think Sarah would have gotten over it. Morgan never said 3 words to me the whole game, so I don't know what she would be upset about. You know, Jeremiah, we had talked in the game. LJ, and Jeffra shouldn't have had anything against me. So when I went in there, I said, hey, I'm just going to face the music. And they turned their shoulders, and they were at the bar. I ate a little. I went to my lonely side of Ponderosa, and then I came back out after I had cleaned up, and they were all drinking. That's what happens there. There's a lot of consumption.
Yes.
And a couple of the people were downright horrible to me. They just yelled at me for hours, called me every name in the book, just a drunken rampage. And I just sat there and let them get it out. And a couple of the people, the handler people, just said, hey, Kass, you know, you don't have to do this. I said, look, they need to get their closure. They've been waiting to tear into me. They're not going to get to tomorrow night. So let them get it off their chest, because this is just a small part of life. And these people, in reality, we've all been on this journey. But if this is how it's going to end, then this is how it needs to end for them.
Right.
You know.
So what were they mad at you about?
You
obviously found out.
Every life choice I've made. I think my shoes were brought up. You know, I mean, just everything.
Well, yeah, but that's not the real issue. You know, that's just them ranting. What was the basis of their anger?
I think just festering there. I mean, Sarah told me, you know, because of me, she was at Ponderosa longer than she was in the game, and Trish just hated me, I think, because I beat her and I got Wu to flip, and that all happened. And she couldn't project her anger onto Tony, because she had this weird thing with her. So she projected all of her anger towards Tony onto me.
Yeah.
And it was Sarah, Trish, and Morgan who just went nuts. I actually thought Sarah was going to hit me at one point.
Wow.
And I mean, the amount of anger there, and Trish wanted an apology for my gameplay. I said, I actually went up to her and said, look, I'm sorry I made the comment of your appearance. That was my one regret when I called her Skeletor, because I had said going in, I'm not ever going to talk about people, how they look, or their families, or anything that's off limits in life to discuss. Right. And I did have the Skeletor comment that night. So I said, I'm really sorry I said that. Of course, she always joked around calling herself malnutritious and skeleton girl, and so it's easy to re-say things someone says about themselves.
Right.
It's still inappropriate. So I apologized, and she said, I'm not accepting your apology. You need to apologize for the stupid way you played this game and how horrible you are. And I had no idea she had this huge problem with me. Until that day when we came back from that challenge, and she thought I was going home and decided to go into me all day.
Right.
So those two were particularly horrific. Tasha was on the outs at Ponderosa because she called out Trish on her behavior at camp, and they got into it. I mean, nobody was too happy. And Jeremiah and LJ spoke to me. They were still mad at me because Spencer had just gone home the night before. So, LJ said it was just an absolutely miserable Ponderosa with the girls there, and Jeremiah concurred that they just moped around. And if you sit there and just fester like that, and I'm the last target before final travel, so it was open season. At the finale, though, people were good, so.
Yeah, well, they had time to allow it to seep in. Gosh, it'd been 9 months or 10.
Well, my husband and I stopped at the local beverage store on the way and took orders by text, and we had our room open the night before and had a party in there. And I think that really broke the ice for everyone, just to come and hang out with their family members and just be like, hey, it was just a game. And when I saw Trish that day, I just went up and gave her a hug and said, hey, I saw your daughters, they look great, and complimented her and said, it's just a game to me. I don't take personal anything you've said on Twitter or, any of that stuff. And I don't think we're going to go out for coffee anytime soon, but, it's just being an adult about it.
Right. Sarah, I'm almost not even wanting to go back into the game, but Sarah, she had no right to be mad at you. Sarah was in this great position, and she totally destroyed her own game in that one episode. She did it to herself.
That's how I feel.
Yeah, I mean, she overplayed her hand.
You broke the rule. You never say no to anybody. You don't say, I'll get back to you. You don't say, I'll think about it. I say yes to everybody. It's like you at Luzon. Whoever tells me how to vote, I will vote that way if you tell me how to vote. Yeah. Never say no.
Yeah. Well, she was in a power position, and when you're in that swing vote position, you have to handle it properly.
She didn't.
Which is not to wear it on your sleeve.
See, I think the best way is what Tony said when he said somebody asked when did you ever feel like you were losing control? He said, I always felt like I was never in control, which is why he played the way he did. And if you think you're in that power position, you've got to think that you're not in the power position and always play as if you're fighting for your life every day. I got a question for you. Did you think anybody got a favorable edit that didn't necessarily should have gotten one, or the other way around? Did somebody not get a favorable edit that they should have? We kind of asked Tony overrated, underrated for the season, but I mean, going by the edits, do you think somebody got a really good edit that they didn't necessarily work at?
I think Spencer got a phenomenal edit, but I think they needed someone to fit that role. I think they wanted Tasha in that role, but she would not give them good confessionals, is my guess, because she didn't get a lot of camera time. But I almost felt like whenever the camera was specifically focused on her, she was very contrived. And I think if you watch the show, when she's speaking, it's a lot of voiceovers where they're showing voice. I think because she would get this kind of thing going with the camera where she was playing to it, and I don't think the public was ready for that behavior. Otherwise, I think she would have gotten a much bigger hero edit, and it would have been great for the show to have her as a hero over Spencer.
Right.
But Spencer was kind of I love all of our edits because it showed us as people. Like none of us were like extremely likable. We all had these bad moments and we all had good moments. And I think that's why people love this season is you had people.
It made it such a great new player season because we got real people, which was so great about season 1. It's people. It's not actors. It's not professionals. It's real people trying to play a social game. And that's what was so great about this season. We didn't really get any characters. Everybody tried to compare Tony to Russell, and I don't see it other than the bald head and the short height. Otherwise, they played a different game, and it was 18 unique people. They weren't people playing old people's game from previous seasons.
I think you're absolutely right, and I think that's a lot of criticism that people have of certain players. They're always comparing us to other players, and how about this? How about we all came out and played our own darn game?
That's a preseason question. Who are you most like? I'm like me. You're just gonna have to wait and see.
Right. And they try to pigeonhole you into something.
Right. Well, that's because they want you to drop names because that gets viewers or gets interest.
Oh, we got another Boston Rob coming on. Oh, it's another Parvati. Yeah, no.
Yes.
No. So
I think there's a new viewership arising, and I think if they play their cards right, they can regrow the franchise.
Yeah.
Hey, it worked for Batman. Why not?
It's a fine line, though, and if it gets ruined, I'm willing to bet Mr. Probst is at the helm to ruin it.
Okay, don't set any fires to any bridges.
Yes, remember, bridges.
They're wooden now.
He knows how I feel about it.
Well, he's in the room, so he's listening to everything.
Yeah, be careful.
I know.
He's been eyeing your butt the whole podcast.
This is the tallest he's ever been.
Yes.
All right, so what did you think of the phrase? And I know you've heard. Did you read a lot of blogs? I know that you've met Andy Baker online, but have you read?
Did they meet online? They beat each other up online.
Because I want to ask about the phrase "not playing to win." How often did you hear that, and did that really did that disappoint you, or did it affect you in any way?
Well, that's what Tony says about you all the time, that you didn't play to win.
Look, if it weren't for me, Tony wouldn't have won, because I wouldn't. If I hadn't flipped.
There you go.
So Tony rode my coattails, is how I look at it.
Oh, that's a quote I'm putting on Twitter. Tony rode my coattails. That's gonna get some life on Twitter. Go ahead.
That means you had Woo too, because Woo was riding his coattails.
How much of your wine have you drank so far? Oh no, she's frozen.
I said to him, here's the deal. Oh, I'm frozen. Do I have to start singing "Let It Go"?
No.
You're back.
Go ahead.
So if Tony,
let it go, let it go.
Well, he said frozen, so Here's the deal. There's a lot of revisionism out there, right?
Right.
Yes, absolutely.
It's been 8 months. You get to see your season from the editor's perspective. I'm not going to try to revise my edit. I know what happened. Tony and Spencer and Woo discounting my game. I think it's a cop-out, And Tony made really bad decisions, but he had people cover.
Right.
That Jeffra boot instead of Spencer. Had I not won that immunity challenge, Tony would have gone home. So therefore, Tony rode my coattails to the final 3. Tell him that. What would have happened? What would have happened if I didn't win that immunity challenge?
So does that come out at Final Tribal if it's just you and Tony, besides the fact that, hey, this guy got here because of you and you over there on the jury, I got here on my own. None of you worked with me, helped me. I got here on my own playing my game, but this guy had you and you. All of us wish we had a you and a you, but he's here riding my coattails, and he had several of you to back him up.
I don't know if I would have said he rode my coattails, but I certainly would have argued that for the first 16, 17 days of the game, he was well-fed and on a winning tribe.
Right.
And then at the merge, he was on a strong tribe, and they threw a challenge to get someone out.
Right.
Always a risky proposition. Stupid move, I think. Especially with Cliff. Why do you want to get Cliff out? Nobody's going to give him the million. You know, he's a millionaire. He's a great goat to take, just for that fact.
Yeah.
So, but I would have said that exactly. Look, I was on this crappy tribe. No one ever aligned with me, yet everyone blames me for ruining their alliance. And here you have Tony, who had Trish cleaning up every mess he made. You have him bumbling his way through, backstabbing LJ unnecessarily and early. Instead of Tasha there. That girl was so tough. And that was Tony's decision. And then getting rid of Jeffra instead of Spencer. What was that about, Tony? You know, that was a bad decision, and it could have gone. I should have let it go wrong, come to think of it.
Yeah.
But, no, because Spencer would have won it. Spencer would have beaten me. I don't know that Tony could have beaten me. I'm sure he thinks he could have, but he did a very poor. His speech at Final Tribal was lousy. I knew with Wu and Tony, I mean, they weren't going to give good Final Tribal speeches or answers.
Right.
Didn't like Tony out there. He was very condescending. He was very aggressive. I'm sure if he hadn't won, he'd have gotten a different edit.
Well, sure.
Yeah. So
Well, okay,
how ironic that the one challenge he wins is the mudslinging challenge.
Yes.
Well,
So-
he had a good strategy in that. He only put mud on the front of him, and he made many trips.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
He definitely, I mean,
that was probably his best strategizing moment of the game.
yeah. Strategery. Hey, so but if everybody hated you like they did at Ponderosa, why do you think they would have voted for you? I mean, they were having to get in between you and Sarah, and yet you think you would have won.
Well, I think, and here's the deal. If I would have gotten it, well, they weren't going to vote for Wu. No one was going to vote for Wu. Just trust me. Wu was not going to win. So, if I went with Wu, are you guys still? You're getting all fuzzy to me.
We're still here.
Okay. And it's not the wine. It's.
I was about to say fuzzy.
I think it's when my air conditioner kicks on, the computer goes fuzzy.
Yeah.
It's funny. My office is like a 120-year-old building, so.
Yeah. It's that murder that happened in there 100 years ago.
You know about that?
That's why it was so cheap. Go ahead.
Yeah.
So, no, I think Tony and I would have been a great final two. And I think if I hadn't won, it would have been incredible because I would have called out the women on their being pissed at me and not being pissed at Tony. And I wouldn't have been one of these women who was like, oh, I'm sorry for everything I did. I'm sorry, you know. I would have just said, yeah, I did it because I'm playing freaking Survivor. And I'm here to win. And I did what this guy did, but I did it without allies and without idols. And I've been to every tribal here except 2. And if you don't think I was playing, how the heck did that happen? How did I get here? Being hated, being a flipper, being this horrible player. Why? You know, and if I'm so horrible at camp and to live with, why wouldn't you get rid of me? Why'd we get rid of Morgan over me if I'm so detestable?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was my disappointment, and as nice as Wu seemed, and he was my son's favorite, I'm trying to figure out why, but him winning the final immunity challenge was the disappointment for me because that meant you or Tony were not going to be in the final. And I wanted to hear from you, I wanted to hear from Spencer, and I wanted to hear from Tony. I agree that I think Spencer might have gotten a lot of votes, but definitely I wanted to hear you and Tony banter back and forth about how you played and why you played. That would have been, to me, the perfect ending to this season. The two people that did the most talking, did the most camp talking, got the most confessionals, put them in the end in the final. And that's why I was kind of disappointed that to me, that would have been the benefit of having a final 3 instead of 2.
Yes.
But I'm also, I'm a fan of a final 2. I understand that, but final 3 this time would have been so good.
Yeah, and really you can thank Lindsay for that. I believe I read that Probst said they went to Final 2 because Lindsay was out of the game, and so
he'd have been the first jury member in a final 3.
But you can't really thank her for it because had she stayed in the game would have ended up so differently. You know.
Yeah.
That's the thing I hope people don't do if they ever play these coulda, shoulda, wouldas. Because if Lindsay would have stuck in the game, who knows what alliances might have formed.
Right. True.
Right.
So in theory, yeah, on the surface it looks like that, but
yeah.
and the
You're
other
right.
thing about my flip is people were going to break up the three brains. At the
Yeah.
end. And Sasha and Spencer did not see that, and I saw that, and I'm the weakest member of the brains, so I'm and the least social, so I'm probably going to be the first casualty of that.
Yeah.
So no, I would have loved a final two of me and Tony because I love the game, and I know it would have been such an awesome final tribal.
Yeah.
And I even mentioned that in a confessional. I don't know if they showed it, where I say, the best thing Wu could do would be to hand over that necklace and say, I want Kass and Tony. If he's really a fan of the game, if he's really trying to do a big move, just forfeit, dude, because that's what you just did. And that's what I said the day after. I said, Wu kind of quit. He had a better chance to beat me, but rather than risk losing to me, he took Tony, who he knew could beat him, but he was happier with Tony beating him than me. So I think if Wu wanted to be honorable, which to me he wasn't honorable because he made a final two deal with me, and that's on camera.
Yeah.
And I told him, though, I said, if you take Tony, I will vote for Tony, and I will lobby for Tony with the jury.
Yeah.
Because I told him, I said, you cannot beat Tony.
Right.
Tony gets every vote that you can argue you can get because you played the same game.
Well, some people are saying that Wu made the biggest dumb move, one of the top three most stupid moves in Survivor history by not taking you to the end. But they're basing that on their assumption that Wu would have beat you. So really, if Wu can't win, then his move is not the dumbest move in the history of Survivor anymore.
Right.
It's just him, who do I want to beat me? Right?
Exactly. That's how I feel about it. I feel that his decision that day wasn't who can I beat, it was who do I want to beat me, or who do I want to lose to, I think. And I think he could have had a shot against me more than Tony because they played the same game. But he could have had arguments against me that he didn't have against Tony. And that was what I told him. I said, look, just draw a little W and a T and a K and make a column, and then pick the jurors' initials, if you can remember them, and who would vote for who. And I drew it in the sand for him. I said, look, the K column gets nobody. The T column gets everybody. So if you take the T column away, we have to force them to make some decisions. But Tony got to him. I mean, he was in hollow. And I really didn't get to spend much time with Wu that day. Tony spent almost all day with him alone. So
Did you feel that Wu made any kind of a case for himself? Because even the game that he played, he still had the chance to say, look, when I saw Tony play, when I saw who he had around his finger, when I saw the way he was working, I said, that's not only my alliance, but that's my shield. Why am I going to stick my neck out and make moves when he's making all these moves to backstab people, to trick people? Why should I try to play his game? Let him play it, stand behind him, and let him take all the hits, and then I'll find myself sitting here. I'll kick in second gear when the challenges, and I'll get to the end. That's my game. I had no. It's like Spencer. Spencer didn't play the game he was supposed to play because he was in a bad situation. Your game, who knows what game you would have played if you'd have been on a winning tribe. But Wu's, you adjust day by day. You can't just go in there with a game plan and play it to the end. It's never going to happen. So you have to adjust per day. And Wu could have said, would he have convinced anybody if he'd have said, look, that was my game? You don't think I had a game, but I had a game.
I think Wu should have pointed out that on the Trish vote out, and I don't know what Tony told you guys because I really haven't listened to that. I need Tony in small doses.
Well, just
3 minutes, not 3 hours.
Break it up into 30-minute segments.
And you'll be there 6 times.
I might get PTSD if I hear him speaking. I don't know what would happen. So anyway, Wu did make a great move at the end that I don't think he's gotten credit for, and I think he should get credit for. And that's the Trish vote out. what Woo did, Trish and I were fighting that day, or Trish was yelling at me and I was smiling smugly.
Which you do very well.
Yeah, I mean, it's patented now. I'm working on this. Anyway, what Woo did, because Tony was mad at me for driving the wedge between Woo and Tony.
Mm-hmm.
So Woo confirmed with me, hey, we're going to vote out Trish, me, you, and Spence. And I said, great, as long as it's not me. No one wanted to go after Tony because we knew he had the one idol, at least, the normal idol.
Mm-hmm.
Spencer had immunity, so I said, all right, I will write down Trish. Woo didn't tell me Tony was voting for Trish, and Woo didn't tell Tony that I was voting for Trish. So that was what Woo could have had to play, because there was no need for Tony to vote for Trish, yet Woo let him vote for Trish. And then when we came back to camp that night, Tony was so downtrodden and so upset, and he said, Kass, why didn't you tell me you were voting for Trish? And I said, good on you, Woo. You actually played the game, which is don't let everybody know and manipulate emotions. You might get Trish's vote now for that. But he never brought it up at final. And if I were Woo, I would have said, you know, Trish, the reason Tony voted for you is because I swindled him into it. And you think I'm dumb, but I've been doing that the whole game. And maybe he had been doing that, and we didn't know it.
Yeah.
Right.
But that's the only time I saw that Woo, and I was like, I kind of had my little smirk. I thought, this is great, because Tony is so emotional. If anyone out there was the emotional player, and he was distraught over the Trish vote, and it was unnecessary. His distress that night was knowing that everyone had pulled a fast one on him and made him potentially lose Trish's vote. Of course, he could do nothing to lose Trish's vote, so it wouldn't matter. But Woo did have a little gameplay there. I give him credit for that.
Yeah. So how much, at the Ponderosa, how much say did production have over what you were allowed to ask and what you were allowed to say?
Well, I think a lot of people had discussions with Jeff, and well, you got to remember, I came out day 38 at night. By the time I got back and was done being yelled at and took a nap, and I had my own room at my own wing, basically. When I got up the next day, because that night was Final Tribal, a lot was going on, and we were leaving the next morning at like 6 in the morning. So people were getting ready to leave, and then I had to go do my Ponderosa talks, where they follow you around and whatnot. So I wasn't really a big part of anything. And when we did meet with Jeff and other people about Final Tribal, and they wanted to know what page you were on or what you were thinking of asking, Jeff told me, you know, Kass, I'm going to put you near the end, and you're going to listen, and I know you have the skills to ask a question that's not redundant and do something. So he said, I'm not going to insult you by having you prepare anything.
That was nice.
So I had free reign to ask what I wanted to. They did ask me if I were Woo's attorney, if I could make an argument for him. And I did tell them that I felt that Woo did not even attempt to save himself by taking Tony, that he basically, in my mind, quit the game by doing that and conceded victory right then to Tony. So I said, it would be like my client going into court and saying, I did it, here's the murder weapon, and then you asking me to defend him after that. Because what he had said, and I'm not sure it was shown, was, I'm taking the most deserving player who deserves to win. And then he took Tony. So to me, you just told me, I'm taking the guy I would vote for. And it was unnecessary to say that. So I felt like him telling me that he was taking someone more deserving potentially than himself and me let me know that Tony deserved my vote. So I told Jeff and them, there's no way I could argue it in the face of the evidence that has been presented. He's guilty. So, you know. So then I just asked my question. And Spencer had worked on his for a long time, all day. Everybody was in there writing notes in notebooks. It was hilarious.
Yeah.
And he actually asked in his insult to Wu about being a dog was almost identical to the question I had just asked. Spencer went after me, and I thought that was not paying attention to anyway. And then Spencer gave that crazy speech, and that almost made me vote for Wu because I was so disgusted that Spencer would pander to the jury on behalf of someone and tell us we were all stupid and should listen to him. But I didn't want to ruin the game out of spite for Spencer's stupidity, so I still voted for Tony because he did play the better game than Wu.
Right. But you know CBS put him last knowing he was going to do that.
I'm trying to remember if he was actually last or if Trish was last.
Oh, really?
I know usually they go in the order you're booted out. But
Okay.
those two, I think they knew were going to do these crazy things. I think Trish might have been right after me and then Spencer. I can't remember the order.
Well, in the show, Spencer was last.
Yeah.
It was right after Trish.
He did not change a single person's mind.
Right. So everybody was already, it was pretty much 8-1 going into Tribal, and it was 8-1 going out.
Yeah. And
See,
I had considered voting for Wu because he's a nice guy, and I felt he would do good with the money, because he's very good with kids. I thought, and then I smacked myself and said, this is Survivor. You don't give it to the good person.
Yeah.
Let's give it to the guy who's going to buy pink.
That's one thing that Scoopin always says, is that going into Final Tribal, I mean, it's almost like why even have Final Tribal except for the show, because everybody already knows who they're going to vote, for whom they're going to vote, and it doesn't change at Final Tribal. But if that's the case, then why even go in with the closing argument, for yourself?
Allegedly, that's the case with every tribal, but this season proved that sometimes you don't know what certain people are going to do at tribal.
That's right.
With new players, I think they don't trust producers as much, so they don't tell them. I know with me, they would ask me, well, what are you going to do tonight? And I would always say, I don't know. And no one would know what I was going to do, except me.
Yes.
And I felt more comfortable doing that. And I remember coming back from tribal on several occasions where you go to your little confessional and they're just like, Kass, what happened? And I'm like, I just had some fun,
Yes, yes. I created some chaos.
With the Sarah vote out, they didn't know. With the Garrett vote out, nobody knew. We're just everyone involved, and I thought it was funny. But I was having fun.
Yes. Did production ever get frustrated with you because you wouldn't tell them stuff?
No, I thought I had pretty good rapport with production.
Okay.
And I played it off. Even at Tribal, I would talk like I didn't know what I was going to do. I would try to make both sides nervous if I was the swing vote, but just play it off like I was stupid. Like, I don't know, man, this. So, because Tribal is obviously much longer than UC.
Oh, yeah.
We did have a ton of questions, obviously, and a lot of them were redundant, which is why I didn't give too much credit to all the names. We gave a few names, but the one question Will wanted credit for, which isn't really a question, but his number 10 of his emailed questions, because he put some on Facebook and on email. This is Mr. Dennison again. Number 10 is, I'm married, so are you, but if we're ever both single, #... And you do not have to respond to that question. Not a question. But he wanted credit for that. I just thought I would throw that out there because I don't want to get sued.
Yes.
Well, I'm kind of happily married there, Will.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I think Will is too, but you were obviously his favorite player this year. I don't know if it was the lawyer or the antagonism, but I agree with him that you made it extremely enjoyable.
Yes.
It's clearly my movie star good looks, my tankini.
Hey, that tankini is hot.
Oh, you know what I did at casting?
What? What'd you do?
When I went to finals, I got the frumpiest swimsuit I could find. I took some old running shorts and T-shirts with holes in it, a Kansas City Royals baseball hat. I stopped at Target and bought some of the teen vampire novels and left the Target sticker on there.
Yeah.
And because you see everybody, right? You go, and they said the game starts the minute you walk in the door. You're being watched. You never know who's watching you when. You go out to the pool. Oh my gosh, I think everybody had me pegged as, Don Meehan III. Just
Yes.
like I must have 6 kids, and I know everyone that I met, like in the game, they said, "Oh, I thought you were the nicest lady, like just this mom," and that was what I was going for, because I thought it would be great to you're just this chameleon. You're going to go in and just wreak havoc, and they're going to think you're reading vampire novels. And then at Ponderosa pregame, they had these Harlequin novels there, and I was reading those, and it was hilarious. I would hold them up, and I would look, and then look like I was shocked, and I was just kind of playing this role as this conservative mom, and all my clothes at Ponderosa were just old, and I went in, I wanted those people to think I was this throwback cafeteria worker mom type.
Yeah.
And I think it worked until I had to start playing. I was hoping to ride that to the merge, but lose on.
Yeah. Lost.
Let me.
I thoroughly enjoyed watching you play.
I got one more I want to read because it's Shayna's. I want to read Shayna's comment. And she said, "Tell Kass the worst part of the finale was when she was voted out." That was her comment. Shayna does a lot of work for us behind the scenes and stuff. And her question was, as a super fan, or as a fan, as you said, you're more of just a real fan, did your experience live up to your expectations of the game, or were you disappointed?
I loved it. I loved every minute. I mean, that's why I'm grinning the whole time out there.
Right.
I remember going to that first tribal, and you would think you would be bummed because you're the old lady and you're probably getting voted out. And I remember Jeff saying, "Kass, you're smiling. We're at tribal." And I said, "Jeff, that's exactly why I'm at smiling. I'm at tribal council with Jeff Probst in the rain. It doesn't get better than this." And he's like, "Oh God, I hope it does, Kass." I was in awe. Like the whole time I was there, it was so surreal to me. You would go into a challenge and there would be this like 3-story contraption. Yeah. And I never lost that sense of I'm on Survivor. I'm wearing a buff. I'm about to compete, And I don't know. It was like being at Disneyland for me. I mean, being a fan, you drink wine one night, you're just chilling, they call you, you get sent to this place. I mean, it was all just crazy to me. And then to go and do it. And I think if I ever went back, it wouldn't be as exciting because you get a little jaded after you play, maybe.
Yeah.
But I loved every minute of it. And if you saw when I exited, I mean, I said, thank you. I mean, I had a blast. And I really did have a blast. And it was fun. And I love causing problems. And that was my plan, was to go out there and just be this geeky person who kind of just and I think I did it. And I love that I delivered on what I said I would do out there.
Yeah.
Because it would be very disappointing to get on a show and just have them take a chance on you and then go out and just lay around and do nothing and get voted out.
Right.
And fade into Survivor Oblivion.
Yeah. Well, you're not going to fade into Survivor Oblivion.
Well.
Yeah. Don't make any vacation plans for next summer.
Yeah.
I would like to now. I really don't like people in public coming up to me when I'm with my family. It's really weird.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Did the town rally behind you, or did you have mean looks at the local coffee shop?
Oh, they've been great. The coffee shop writes Chaos Kass on my coffee, and someone vandalized my office. A lot goes on around here. I've only had one person in person be rude to me, and it was a man at the grocery store the other day. And I'm going in the grocery store, and I hear from across the parking lot, like 100 yards away, "Hey, you suck!" And I was like, I look, and And this guy goes, "Your games suck. You suck at Survivor." And he's in the handicap spot. He's very overweight. He's in this old little beat-up Toyota pickup. And he's like yelling at me, animated. And I go, "Are you serious?" Because is he serious in the grocery store parking lot to be yelling this in the small town? And I go, "Are you serious?" And he goes, "Yeah, you suck, you beep." And I go, "Well, you know, I got one thing to say to you." And he's like, "What's that?" And I go, you know, I gave him the bird. And he went nuts. I thought he was going to have a heart attack. And then he yelled these expletives at me, and I was laughing. And I said, "Hey, go back to your mom's basement and collect those food stamps." So,
oh, gosh, Kass.
But it was so crazy. Like,
yeah, I think
you know, you think, I don't think he was going to give me fan favorite.
No. No.
But a lot of people are very positive. They come up to me and they feel like I was robbed, or, I mean, I don't think people would come up in general and be like, "You suck."
No.
Did that really happen?
Not usually.
Not people that realize it was a game and that it wasn't life.
Well,
also, people in your town they're looking at the game through this rose-colored glass of Kass. You know, we want Kass to do well. We want to think well of Kass, and so they, you know, they're going to naturally lean towards your game and enjoy it, just like I would if David was on the game. And you know, David would be the biggest villain there was, but I would think he played a great game no matter what because he's my best friend. You know, so it's kind of that.
Yeah,
people in your town are going to root for you.
Yeah, other than the late-night lawyer and the politician that wants Tony fired, most people realize, you know, it's a game.
Yes.
And not real life.
Yes.
Well, it's interesting to me, having never missed the show. I've never stalked a contestant.
Yes.
So I find that bizarre that someone would actually go out of their way to. And I've had several letters because my office address, you know, is public via the State Bar website. I have to have a public place that people can find me. So you can find me. And many people have found me. After that Flip episode, I had 13 death threats. Gosh. I mean, it was insane. And I called my friends and I was like, "Really, we've never missed an episode, but have you ever thought to even Google a player?" Like, I won't even read their CBS bio usually unless they're my pool pick, you know?
Yeah.
So this whole world of bloggers and things is new to me as a fan. I didn't even know about this podcast, and you guys were the first ones I found.
Awesome.
Because I had Googled my name and it was on, and then I listened to you that first cast assessment.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, well, this isn't so bad. And then I listened to Rob say that I listened to Rob say I was going to be voted out even though the Beauty Tribe was going to lose the first challenge, and I was like, well, this is stupid. You know, but as the season went on, I just didn't read the blogs.
Right.
I particularly don't appreciate former players criticizing current players because they, of all people, should know there's so much that goes on.
Mm-hmm.
I vow to not be one of those people who watches Survivor and says anything about, you know, how someone's edited or something, or goes on a personal attack, because that's just silliness, and I don't think it helps the show in any way to have these people out there being so negative. So I haven't appreciated that.
So that's one thing that makes Survivor one of my favorite shows. Is a long time ago, I'll say 1990, when we were on our first honeymoon, we got taken to Las Vegas by the company I worked for at the time.
You were on your first honeymoon?
My first honeymoon. Not honeymoon, my first anniversary. Sorry.
Okay.
I know. Anyway, it's late. It's late, but anyway. And it was to meet movie stars at a convention. And I got a couple autographs, and then after that, it was like, these people really think they're something else. You know, they're just people that have been fortunate enough to look right, sound right, and pretend to be somebody else. And one thing I like about Survivor is they're just regular people. And when they leave the the island or they leave the game, they're still regular people. There are some people that have made themselves into something else, which I could care less about, but that's why I'm such a fan of new player seasons, is that it's regular people. And if you see them in the grocery store, say, hey, enjoyed you on Survivor, I don't really want an autograph. I might want a picture, just a smile, but I mean, it's just, I don't know, I don't take it that far. I don't want to take it that far. I want to talk about Survivor. I mean, I could care less about the autographs or the super things, but I'm probably going off on a tangent. But I just want to talk about Survivor, and that's what I like about Survivor. It's regular people. It's nobody that thinks they're bigger than life. It's just regular, and that's the people I like to pull for. Is people that realize it's a game. And after this, I'm going back to life.
Yeah, it's a TV show. I mean, you don't go stalk people on Wheel of Fortune, Like,
that
to
was
me,
a horrible spin.
why couldn't you get that?
Yes.
It had every letter but one. How did you
Don't ask for a vowel, you idiot.
Right. I mean, to me, Survivor is a game show. It's not a reality show.
Yeah.
To me, you're going out there to play a game. So that was my philosophy going in, is you're not going out to be some TV star. You're going out to try to win $1 million.
Right.
So, and back to the playing to win thing. I think most people in their own minds out there are playing to win. I think the problem in life is we don't put ourselves in the situation. So it's very easy to sit in your living room and game away by voting out Sarah. No, I would have thrown my game away by not voting out Sarah if she's not playing to win. No, I was playing to win, and I think King very funny. Was Wu playing to win? I think in his mind he was. There were only a few people out there not playing to win. And there were a few people who had no idea what the game was about. Then those are recruits. When you recruit people, when you have Colton Cumbie tell you, I know the biggest bee in the world and she'd be great for Survivor, even though she's never watched it, I think that's a lousy way to cast, because there's another attractive young female that would want to come out and play.
Who loves Survivor.
Right. And I think there's enough people out there, and I hope our season changes that. And I've told them I won't go back unless it's all returnees. I don't think it's fair to put returnees against newbies. I think the advantage you would have going back is tremendous. Mm-hmm. And you would have these alliances, whether you want to say it or not, with social media, with all the ways to communicate.
Right.
You can't avoid it. And so accept that and say we're going to have an all-stars or heroes, villains, or whatever your gimmick's going to be.
Right.
And let them have pregame. Let them consort at Ponderosa. See what happens. That would give you an entirely new, cool dynamic. If you had people who, the night before you're dropped off or kicked out of a boat, had just been having beers together.
Yeah.
And then they're on separate tribes thinking they're all good. And then you just say, I mean, imagine that. If you just took a group of people who felt some camaraderie and had some preconceived notions and said, buddy. I think that would be great, and show the pregame.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be fascinating probably to watch.
How about putting them all on the same beach, on the same beach, not like One World where they were separated, but on the same beach, and for 2 or 3 days they don't even know what the tribes are, right? So everybody's getting together and doing all their stuff, and they go to the first thing and they draw rocks for tribes. And they play that round, and they go to tribal council. They come back to their shelter. The next challenge, they draw rocks for new. I mean, that would be awesome. I just think that'd be great.
How about if after every challenge you get a new tribe of all-stars?
That'd be great.
All right,
think it'd be great.
You guys are going to tribal. At the end of tribal, you're going to draw rocks. And then we're going to go over to the other beach while you're at tribal, and they're going to draw rocks. And when you go back to your beach, you're on the green beach or the blue beach.
Yeah.
And you don't know who you're going back to.
Yeah, I think that'd be great.
Cool.
That would be really fun.
That'd be great to actually leave tribal and go to a separate camp, because you would get all these rumors about what had happened at tribal among the people you thought you were in with.
Right.
That's a great idea. They would never do it because they wouldn't give them enough control. But
no. They like to have control.
Well, just like this blood versus water, where someone allegedly had to be removed for health problems.
Yeah.
Why not throw the extra person who was healthy on redemption, or just throw them in there and let them sink or swim?
Yeah.
Don't take away a person's shot. It's so hard to get on the show.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Well, Kass, do you have anything else that that we didn't cover that you wanted to cover?
Did you want to know about the Jatia clothes throwing incident?
Yes. Yes. Tell us about that.
So when Jatia threw the rice out, I was the only person who got mad. Like, actually, what the, went off on her. And what I did, she was, of course, immediately pulled away to go on a walk, and her belongings were in camp. Garrett was mourning the rice loss. Tasha was worried about strategizing, and I don't know what Spencer was doing, macrame or something with his idol. So her shoes were there, so I took her shoes and I threw them. And as you could tell in that one challenge, I have a pretty good arm, so I chucked those babies far into the jungle.
Mm-hmm.
I took her shirt and her sweater, and I was going to burn them in the fire, but I was advised that you aren't allowed to actually destroy something of another player, but you can relocate it. So It had been quite muddy, and I stomped on it, and I took it in the mud and stomped, and then threw it in the bushes, threw her clothes out. And when she came back to camp, I said, I'm going to banish you. You are no longer part of this tribe. Because if we were a real tribe and you destroyed our food source for the season, we would eat you for dinner. So you can go live in Coconut Grove, which is where we go to the bathroom. And I said, don't even come over to shelter. I went off. I said, don't come to our shelter. Don't try to take anything because you've taken from us something so dear. And then we had these bananas that I had found, and they were ripening. And she went toward the bananas, so I went to protect the bananas, and we had that moment where oh my gosh, we're gonna have a fight or something, and I backed off and I said, eat your bananas. Those are the last bananas you'll eat in the Philippines, and walked away. And I was quite mad at her, and of course Garrett saw that whole thing, and he felt very comfortable, and I was legitimately mad, but I knew I had to get rid of Garrett, who we knew had an idol, and who was lying to me. So, but yes, I did go off on Jatia. I think they could have shown it, and it would have been hilarious because I think that's a natural reaction to someone destroying your food when you're starving. So I wish they would have shown it. I was prepared that night for it to be shown.
Right.
I was prepared. I had a mental breakdown out there one day. I was prepared for that to be shown, where I cried a lot and stuff.
I'm surprised
but
they didn't show that.
They didn't show that.
Yeah.
So
that would have been the softer side of Kass.
They couldn't do that.
They weren't showing that. They wouldn't show anything like that. But yeah, I had my big epiphany out there and cried on the challenge mat. After a challenge we lost, I just lost it. And actually, Jeff's mom was at the finale, and she said, I felt so bad for you that day, because she was apparently on set that day. And she said, I just wanted him to give you some food and give you a break. And she said, I know it's the game, but my heart went out to you. And I was surprised they didn't show it. I understand why they didn't show it, because they were trying to create me as this character who was just so smug and invincible and grinning.
Right.
But we all had our moments.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right, because you never seem weak. You never seem tired or anything. Kind of like the edit they got for Tony. He was always. I told him I call him the Red Bull Survivor, and he said, "Well, that stuff would drive me crazy." But he just was always ready to go, and you were always ready to talk. So I mean, they definitely showed that certain side of you too. Yeah.
And I think if they'd have shown me crying, there's been so many females of my age group that just lose it out there. And it was just an afternoon thing, and people got letters from home. A lot went on that day where you're just frustrated and tired and weak. So, everyone has a breaking point.
Yeah.
And I bounced back, that afternoon. I was like, hey, I'm good. Let's go.
Yeah.
Let's get through the rest of the game. But I kind of wish they would have shown it. But,
Only if you had won would they have shown that.
If I had won, they would have shown some other stuff.
Right.
So,
I'm surprised they told you couldn't destroy stuff, because they let, was it Russell who burned people's socks?
Well, and Sandra burned Russell's hat, and someone hid
Yeah.
that guy Dan Limbo's shoes in the ocean or something.
Yes, yes.
So there's been incidents. Maybe they've gotten complaints from,
Yeah.
people. I've had people tell me Spencer and I should sue CBS because they didn't tell us what the hidden power was. I mean, people are crazy.
Yeah.
But if you get on the show, it's their game, it's their rules, and you're the most replaceable part of the operation.
Right.
So you got to keep that in mind.
Well, it's been fun. I have had a blast talking to you. I knew I was going to enjoy this podcast. I did. Did you have fun, Cass? Did you have fun?
I did. I didn't even get through half my wine, so.
Oh,
yeah.
There you go, which means that we had you talking. That's great.
I don't think she minds talking. She does that a lot.
Yeah. So I want to give a little bit of credit here. Yes. We had questions from Jonathan, Sarah, Simon, Shayna, Tracy, Steve, Toby, Carol, Mike in Cleveland, and who's that guy that sent us a email right at the last minute, David? Do you remember who that was?
Oh, I've got it right here.
I just want to, because we asked all their questions, but we didn't always.
It was Daniel.
So thank you all for all of your questions. If I missed somebody, I'm sorry. Oh, Will, of course.
Don't forget Mr. Dennison.
Yeah, he wrote on the YouTube. Whenever you said it would be like my client, oh crud, it went away. It would be like my client saying I did it and here's the wordle weapon. He said I've actually had clients do that to me. So anyway, a great show tonight. I'm so glad that you came on. We want to thank everybody for listening. If you didn't catch it, catch our interview with Tony. It was really good. And let's see. Anything else, David? Oh, Survivor Talk. You need to follow us on Twitter, @Survivor_Talk. Follow Cassandra. Yours is what? @Kass McQuillen? Yes?
Who knows? Kass McHugh?
McHugh, yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's it.
I'm considering retiring from Twitter, so.
Oh, are you? Okay, well then don't follow Kass on Twitter.
I keep trying to, but Dwayne won't let me.
Yeah. Now,
it's kind of a cesspool.
Yeah, it is. Now, I'll tell you what's not a cesspool is our Facebook group. It's a lot of fun. Cassandra is a member of our Facebook group, and every once in a while puts her 2 cents in. But it's a fun Facebook group. Some Facebook groups are full of a bunch of weirdos that say horrible things about players, and it just becomes this big old argument pit. That's not our Facebook group. Our Facebook group is a lot of fun. So come join our Facebook group. All right. Anything else, Cass? You want to say anything?
It. Thanks, guys.
Right. It's been a blast. Tony is not here. David, do you have any last words?
Oh.
Hey, I could have had Tony come on, but
no,
he's probably been texting you.
No, actually, I'm very surprised. Usually he would be, but
I think he avoided this one.
Baby.
Yeah.
That's right. I think he's all about the little Tony right now.
Yeah, I think I would be too.
No,
That's baby.
Thank you, Cass, for giving us this time when you didn't have to, and really, really appreciate it.
Yep. Coming on our little podcast. We know we're not the biggest fish in the pond.
I like that you guys are positive, and it's nice because some of these people just like to really get crazy with you.
Yeah. So we're going to say goodbye. We'll still be on the air talking to each other, but not live, and then we'll hang up in just a little bit. So everybody, music for tonight's show is, of course, Chaos Cass, written by me, but used on, What's-Her-Face's Wrecking Ball video. So thank you so much for listening. That's all I got. How about you, Dave?
I'm flipped. I'm good.
Yeah, well, we were flipped earlier. Bye, everybody.
Do you want me to sign off for you?
Oh, no. Bye, everybody.